and Rubia being detained or jailed for that matter. Raila had been detained for about a completely different matter. Okay, those people were actually more prominent. Even someone like Muite's name was probably even better known.
Yep.
Now, there are those who argue that he completely went against his father's wishes because his father had preferences and wanted things done in a certain way. So, who was to have told that he's the one who would have emerged to be the person he is now? Here people are trying to rewrite history and trying to analyze and say that these are the people who might inherit. They forget one fundamental rule. In most communities, and the Luo community is not to be left behind, the community decides whom they want the leader to be. Okay? How many people have been named? Think of, say, Cumberland as being politicians worth their weight in salt. But the people decided it's Kalonzo who's their leader. That's the end of that story. You can say what you like, you can jump and down and do what you want, but that's just it. In central Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta was considered the leader. The people decided otherwise. What did we see? The role of people in this whole discussion is something that only someone who probably hasn't given it time will underestimate and dismiss. People will decide. You can say what you like, but they will decide.
What do they base their decision on? Can you tell?
Yes, you can.
What is that?
Most people have a value system which generationally may change. For instance, among the Luo, the one quality that was revered was one of being thorn. A guy someone who doesn't take nonsense. Somebody who can take issues head on.
No, what's that?
Thorn. Thuon. Thorn. Yes. A guy who, like Okoh, things fall apart.
Whose back does not touch
That's
the
ground. A guy whose back doesn't touch the ground and doesn't take from anybody. Okay? Now, that sort of person. Over time, those values could change. Yes.
It may be something different.
It may be something different. Something akin to it, but it may be different.
Yeah.
Because, yes, we've seen that sort of leadership, and it has had its turn. People have seen where it is. It has driven and taken people to. People feel, okay, we've gotten here, but perhaps we need to change and look at something different.
Maybe we need to consider other qualities.
Yes, exactly.
Or we could still interpret the same qualities, but in a different way.
Yes.
It's somebody whose back doesn't touch down, but onwards.
Yes,
somebody
exactly.
who provides inspiration,
yes,
leadership, not somebody who's necessarily combative.
No.
Because previously it used to be because of the wars that were there.
But that was precisely it.
You're looking at somebody who will take you to conquer.
Somebody who will stand in your stead and who will lead the charge against the person who is causing you the unease. You see? Now, politically, if people have felt they were marginalized, the person who spoke against it would be held in high esteem.
Yeah.
The person who said this is not the case, we are being done, that's the person, that's the liberator. In every circumstance, the liberator. Now, in this day and age, ask yourself, what sort of liberation do people want?
What are we looking for?
Yes.
It's important to have this conversation, not just looking at Raila as a Nyanza leader, but Raila as a national leader, right? Because come 2032, for sure, it's not that Raila is going to announce or this or the other. For sure, Raila and the others will take a backseat in our national politics.
They will.
They will definitely not be there
at the forefront of it. No, they won't.
Raila, Kalonzo, Musalia Mudavadi, William Ruto will be out. Uhuru Kenyatta will be out. These guys who have been there in the 80s and 90s into the early 2000s,
they will not be there.
Out.
And if they're alive, they'll be historical.
Yep. They'll just be sitting there guiding as the elder statespersons, but not actively participating in it.
No, they won't.
So who's it that we're going to be looking at?
And what are these qualities that we're going to be looking at? You see, look at the continent, Eric. We're talking about the Coup Belt in West Africa.
Yeah.
The underlying beef is that people feel that amidst plenty, they have nothing.
Yep.
So they grumble, then the grumble gets out of the ground and comes to the surface and it's manifested in the way we see it. And the person whom they seem to choose is somebody who seems to have done something about this thing that they call their unease.
Yep.
Now, what is the unease that Kenyans have? And what sort of leader will they want to sort of like take them out of that unease?
That's true.
Yes.
This is it. And this is what we need to be doing in the next 7 years or 10 years.
Yes.
To identify who our next leaders are going to be. City?
You know, one of the things that I've always found interesting is how it is that we interpret history. And sometimes you look at history with hindsight, and yet You know, history with hindsight doesn't need to be 100 years. It will be just the day before. Okay. Let me look at this headline on page 12. Huh?
Okay.
Ruto calls out judges for ending stay orders in fresh assault on graft cartels. Familiar story?
Yes.
All right. He promised to respect independence of courts, but seems to have drawn the line on graft. The honeymoon is over. Over, Kabisa. No, they didn't write that. It's me who said. Over. After Kenya's President William Ruto sustained attacks on the country's judiciary, accusing some judges of being part of the corrupt enterprise he has vowed to crush. President Ruto said Thursday that the unnamed judges were aiding the activities of corruption cartels by handling graft cases or issuing stay orders to frustrate expeditious prosecution of suspects. The corruption enterprise must come to an end. We'll deal with them firmly, President Ruto said while speaking to a delegation of local leaders in the western town of Kenya, Kakamega.
So basically, he's raising the same issues. Cases are brought to court, before court, then games start being played in court.
Yes.
Adjournment this, adjournment the other.
One gets that impression, yes.
But even judges have talked about this.
They have spoken about it.
And they talk about, we must strike that balance between if an application has been made, what do we do? And do we come up with a no adjournment policy? Like we've been told. The Court of Appeal, sometimes they say, all right, so we are getting into this case, no adjournment. If you have really to seek an adjournment, you have to come up with solid reasons. Show me that this person is actually hospitalized and they're on a drip.
You know,
they're in a coma.
It's over, they're about to call it.
Do you know what is often said? Huh? Remember this analogy of the bad apple spoiling the bunch and all that? Huh? Would one looking at the Kenyan judiciary say that the majority of our judges are corrupt? Or would we say that a handful of our judges can be labeled as being corrupt? What would be the say? And not just judges, the entire judicial system. Let's ask of the police the same question. Would we say that all our police officers are corrupt? Or do we say that there are a few shining examples? Well, no, you can't really call them shining. There are a few dim-lit examples that of individuals in this cadre who shared
a few dark spots.
Thank you.
In this otherwise bright
yes,
institution.
Yes, exactly. Who paint this dreary picture of having a police force that's corrupt. Which is it really? Is it a situation where we are so enamored with the prospects of acquiring wealth quickly, so that anything that we need to do in order to get there quickly is done? Well, not only that, we whitewash it and we baptize it. Yes, exactly. We don't call it theft, we call it looking for.
Business.
Enterprising.
Hustling.
Yes, hustling. But, well, it's outright theft, really. But, so, which is it? Because if indeed the vast majority of those in leadership were thieving XYZs, then this country would have disintegrated a hell of a long time ago.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes.
So it's not possible.
So you think that the thieves are the minority?
No,
it's not possible that it's everybody.
They're the minority. What is in a majority is our tolerance of it. We have an abundance of tolerance for the things we shouldn't be actually tolerant about. That, in my estimate, is one of the problems that we face.
The thing is that once you do have negative behavior in the minority, that unfortunately it tends to color the water. You just need a drop of coloring in water for the whole thing to be colored. Whether or not the water was accepting of it or not, it's there, it's going to happen, right? And they're in the minority. The person who came up with the phrase that one bad apple spoils the bunch knew exactly what they were talking about.
They did.
Because that's all it takes. It's one apple, and guess what? Even in that apple, it's not the whole thing that's rotten.
No, it's just a portion of it.
It's just a portion of it, right? Leans on the rest of it, and then you have the color.
You know, I'm reminded of a time when I was talking to my late grandmother was telling me this story. I had a problem with my eyes when I was young. Apparently, it's one of these problems that you have, and you can actually outgrow it over time. But there was a poor wife of my dad's cousin who was known. She was dad's father, dad, mine, cousin, had wife. It was said in the village that she was a practitioner of dark arts. And specifically, she had an evil eye.
Abbas.
And They blamed the problem with my eyes on her. That every time she passed the compound, she'd look, and that is how
she'd give you her eye.
Yes. Another cousin of my father's, who took this matter to heart, did not lose an opportunity to beat this poor woman every time she passed by. Yes, I'm giving you an accurate story of something that happened. So I remember asking my grandmother when I was able to ask in the later years that my eyes were no longer a problem. I asked her, but why is it then that this lady's children were also ostracized and we were forbidden to play with them? Why? And how true was it? Who had she looked at it with an evil eye and had come to harm so that they could pick the example?
To you?
No.
Before you?
Yeah, but the evil eye didn't I started when I was born. She was,
before you?
Yes, exactly. So, now from a perspective of just looking at the body of evidence to support this view, her children were stigmatized as a result of this.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and there was one person. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure the poor husband was also stigmatized and said, even him, he had those tendencies. That's why he chose such a wife.
Wow.
What did your grandmother tell you?
My grandmother told me this, that her as a born-again Christian, she believed that God's power could overcome everything. But that woman was not a good woman. I rested my case.
It's only her faith that was protecting her.
Yeah, but that woman.
Otherwise,
yes, that woman.
Without faith.
Without
Jesus protecting her. Even your own grandmother would be a victim. That's a nice one. So Kenha and Kura have apparently been inflating costs, all right? For example, in the initial designs, the total cost of these projects are estimated at 682 billion shillings, but they had risen to 703 billion shillings. There are some examples. Some of those examples include Outer Ring Road. Okay? And others. Cost overruns are a thing, and we see these all the time. A project begins, a project comes with a certain budget. You'd assume that all the work has been done to actually cost this and say, this is how much it's going to cost.
But lo and behold.
And this is how long it's going to take us to complete this project. We begin, we groundbreak at this point, we finish at this point. But we see projects begin, projects stall. When projects stall, then costs start going up. Oh, the last time it cost us this much to buy cementi. This time cementi has gone up.
Double.
Sijui chuma, sijui C12, sijui Y12, sijui hakuna.
Na fuel ndio hiyo.
But Eric, this is window dressing. Kenya cannot make decisions. There are people who make decisions. Pinpoint the officers who are charged with making these decisions and let them explain. This Ken Hakura, you're taking us away. The organization doesn't make those changes. It's the people who make those changes. Who are the responsible officers under whose docket all these things fall? Let them come and answer these questions.
The bosses at Kenha.
Yes.
Okay. Keep it here for more conversations. In the next hour, we talk about Nairobi. Is it working? Is it not? The governor joins us, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Azimio leader Raila Odinga has continued to criticize President William Ruto for what he terms as threatening investors in the sugar sector. Speaking out at Thanksgiving ceremony of ODM Vice Chair Christine Lemaine in Narok County, Odinga said the president's statement was dictatorial. Odinga also said that the law must instead be followed when arresting and prosecuting corrupt investors.
Sisi hatutaki kurudisha Kenya kule tulitoka. Tunataka Kenya ambayo inatawaliwa kwa njia ya kidemokrasia, serikali yenyewe inafuata sheria. Kama mtu amefanya makosa, anashtakiwa, alafu yeye vilevile anajitetea, kisha kipatikana na makosa, anapewa hukumu na mahakama. Kama hakuna makosa, yeye anawachwa. Sio ndio kitu tunataka? Hatutaki Kenya ambayo inatawaliwa na majangili. Hawa jamaa wanaonekana ni majangili. na sisi kama wanaazimio hatutaki utawala ya majangili.
Odinga and other Azimio leaders further continued to insist that they want the servers opened so that Kenyans can know who won the August 2022 elections.
Uliona kule Gabon walifanya mapinduzi juzi. Mpata kwamba Bongo walipata tu kura 18% na yule mpinzani wake akapata 77. Unaona hiyo mambo ya saba. Kwa sababu tunasema tunataka sava ifunguliwe.
Mambo ya the legitimacy of the Ruto presidency can only be settled by one thing and one thing only: opening the servers. Opening the servers.
At the same time, Raila criticized Ruto for pressurizing governors to support him in order to enjoy government services.
Sasa huyu gavana wa hapa Narok, naonekana yeye bado wanalala sana. Aliwekwa pale na bwana Chibukati, yeye hakushinda kura. Sikenda anashinda yeye. Alafu yeye anaongea na juu yangu kama mimi ni mirika yake. Shenzi sana.
I'd like to thank the people of Narok for standing with Baba and me in the last elections. We won, and God knows that. But the usual thieves, the usual criminals took away our victory. But God knows they'll pay for it one day.
Elsewhere, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, has criticized opposition leaders for misinterpreting President William Ruto's remarks that launched an attack on individuals who will be found guilty of misusing public property. Wetangula said that the statement did not mean that anyone will be killed, but was meant to ensure public property is protected.
Lakini la muhimu is not to focus on the figurative speech. In speech making, we have what we call imagery speeches, figurative speeches, allegories, and we also have parables. Yala alisema wale wana masikio wamesikia, wale wana akili wameelewa. Lakini tumeona wale wapinzani ambao wanapenda kupinga kila kitu, hiyo wamerukia pia. Anybody who defends the corrupt is an enemy of the people of Kenya. Na tunataka pesa yote ya ushuru wenu irudi hapa ijenge hii shule yetu, ijenge barabara, itengeneze maji.
Two police firearms that had been stolen from a GSU camp in Kipsori, Bungoma County last month have been recovered and the main suspect arrested. DCI say he was caught in possession of a 1G3 rifle loaded with 20 rounds of ammunition. The main suspect, identified as Isaac Wanzala, is a former GSU officer currently suspended from the service on disciplinary grounds. And in the international scene, a new law in Texas requires convicted drunk drivers to pay child support if they kill a child's parent or guardian, according to House Bill 393. The law, which went into effect, says those convicted of intoxication manslaughter must pay restitution. The offender will be expected to make those payments until the child is 18 or until the child graduates from high school. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
It's a busy Monday morning and we're looking at traffic on the Thika Superhighway coming in through to the Pangani Underpass. We'll see a touch on Murang'a Road. There's some traffic coming in from Juja Road as well, all touching in to the CBD. All right, coming out of Westlands as well, there's some movement, not bumper to bumper until you get to around the expressway exits. Uhuru Highway then coming in from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout out towards the CBD. It's going to hold up a little bit at your various junctions of Bunyala, Lusaka, and then heading out towards Haile Selassie. We're looking at traffic on Jogoo Road as well, and there it is coming in from North Airport Road through towards the Outer Ring junction and then out towards the Eastern Bypass. It's about the size of it for now. It's going to probably pile up a little bit more as we get closer towards traffic hour. Spice FM KE on X, talk to us there. Let's keep things moving this Monday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
How are you doing? Welcome to the second hour of the Situation Room this morning, the 4th day of September 2023. We are on to the proper first week of September. Just like this, we are going. Mm-hmm. The year is coming to an end. Pop, like that. Hey, can you believe it? Mm-hmm. Somebody who knows how short a year is Sakaja Arthur Johnson, the governor of Nairobi City County. He's already been in office for a whole year. Done. You're already into the second month of his own budget. It's going. He's our guest this morning. Good morning, Governor.
Good morning. It's actually been 1 year, 1 week, 2 days, and 20 hours since I was sworn in. And it's counting.
And it's counting.
And counting.
And it's
moving.
Going.
Yeah, but
right?
it's great to be here. Very nice to see all of you. Of course, you know, I'm an ardent follower. That's why I know City has not been around. So I'm happy to merudi na I bring glad tidings.
Very good.
Yeah, but you guys are doing a great job.
Asante.
The last time I saw Eric was when he was asking me what's my name.
What is your name?
No, that wasn't me.
No, that was somebody else. You were asking me why I was late. Which was quite deliberate. But it was an interesting episode. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful to God and to the people of Nairobi for the opportunity to serve, for the cooperation. A lot of things you only achieve with the people. You know, you can't, as I've said before, you can't have somebody, or you shouldn't expect somebody to come and wave a magic wand at our problems. I never said, let's Sakaja make Nairobi work. It's let's make Nairobi work. And we've seen quite a lot of progress in many areas. So I'm really happy to have done the first year of setting things straight, establishing structures, you know, getting order first within the administration and the institution, and then in many aspects to the people.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will talk about that for the next 2 hours. 2 hours. And also, we want to hear questions from people coming in. You can post in all your questions and comments on social media, Spice FM KE, on Facebook and on YouTube. To welcome you to the conversation, Governor.
Asante.
CT has the day's proverb, and the proverb is from Make Noise.
Gabon.
Oh, wow.
Make noise.
You know, it's very odd, yeah? The one thing that Governor Sakaja does, he demystifies this position. You know, I have to keep reminding myself, this is the governor of Nairobi. Because he's come in, a certain element of bonhomie, and he's just chit-chatting away. It's like I'm reminiscing from the last time he was here. Your Excellency, let me not get carried away.
Oh, my.
Yes. You are the
I'm trying to understand what you say.
You are the governor of Nairobi. Yes, indeed.
But I'm just me.
You're just you. That's what I'm saying. You are just you. That's the demystification. Because people get to this position and they become governors. Yes. The air with which somebody walks into the room, you know the governor has arrived. Yes. But we thank you.
Thanks.
He who is free of fault will never die.
He who is free of fault
will never
die.
It's an interesting one. What does that mean?
Start with a direct interpretation and then try and go deeper.
I mean, unless you're talking about eternal life and sin. But again, you know, it says without the law, there's no transgression. So it depends on how you interpret it. Because if you have no fault, if you don't know the law, then you have no guilt. And then your soul remains alive. I don't know.
If indeed you are a human being, is it likely to be without fault?
Impossible.
Precisely.
But Jesus washes away our sins.
He does. He does. For him to wash it away, it must exist.
It was there.
Yes.
That means that there's nobody who is without sin.
And so there's nobody who will never die. We will all die.
So he who is without will,
he who is free of fault will never die.
Will never die.
Yes. And there is no one who is free of fault. We are all faulty.
Okay. Does that make no sense?
I think so. Yeah.
A bit of sense.
I think sometimes with poetry or proverbs, you have to almost say the opposite of what you intend or what you mean. So it just means that we'll all die. He without sin cast the first stone. It means don't throw any stone.
Yes. Because you definitely cannot be a human being and be without fault. It is not possible. No, it isn't.
And by the time they made that statement, there's no one who had not died.
Yes.
Exactly. So clearly, everybody's going to die because everybody's a sinner. When you were senator of Nairobi City County and you decided you want to become governor, you, of course, had interacted with Nairobi for a while.
Yeah.
As a resident, as a member of parliament, as a senator, and now going into wanting to be governor. You identified several things that you saw. These ones need to be sorted out in Nairobi. And your campaign was, we must make Nairobi work.
Let's make Nairobi work.
And we must bring order to Nairobi. And by order, we asked you here a number of times, what do you mean order? And you talked about all these things. You talked about a government that doesn't seem to be serving its people. People who don't seem to have a connection with their government. You talked about many things that are happening in our public sector, in our hospitals, in service delivery, in even our own communal things. And you said, we want to bring order into these things. Now, of course, we are now going to look at whether you've been able to bring order and identify where order, what is order and what is disorder. And now you've moved it into Lazima Iwak. Why did you shift to Lazima Iwak?
Well, not really a shift. It is an affirmation, and you must keep encouraging people that we must get it right. We must get things moving. We must get things working, because now we're in the action phase. We're no longer dreaming. We're no longer trying to see, okay, this is what we want to do. We're doing. And so in every initiative, that affirmation keeps people moving. And it is true, I'm born and raised in the city. I've lived in all sides of Nairobi, from Ngara to Eastlands, Imaradaima, Hurlingham, Karen, back to Hurlingham, and I've seen what Nairobi can be because of what it used to be. And I've had time even to go through a lot of the reports. So what you find in City Hall is a lot of good history. There's very good document, archives. And from 30th of March 1950, when Nairobi got its first, it was the first Commonwealth city to get a charter. The Duke and Duchess of Gloucester issued the charter for Nairobi. And there was a question in the House of Commons, why Nairobi? And that begins a description of what the world sees us as. And they said this is the most important capital on the continent, and it is a hub of different people. But from that time, when it became a city, and that's why we have Charter Hall. People wonder what Charter Hall is. That's why we got the charter. To be
Charter Hall. Okay.
Into independence and the mayors, and Nairobi used to run well. There's predictability. You knew public transport, how it runs, and then you start seeing the decay over decades. So the transport sector got disorganized. There was no longer consistency in garbage collection, and then in 1992, after the multi-party elections and the ruling party lost Nairobi, they let go. And so you've had now years of decay, because now the councillors ran amok. And so allocations of land, double allocations, grabbing, the public transport sector, went haywire. Garbage collection stopped being something consistent that would be done properly. And a culture of grab, take all, that if it's your time there. And of course, there have been few dashes of leaders who've tried to get it right. If you look at, I have a report that sits on my desk permanently. It's the conference of the Nairobi We Want. Magic Mike and the mayor that time. Ntimama was the minister for local government. And if you look at the things they're talking about in the plans, they've always been there. So when you get into office, one, you find that there's an organizational culture that you must deal with. To create order, you first start with the institution. So you find staff who've been demoralized. many who had not been showing up to work. Some had not shown up for years. Yeah.
And they were on the payroll?
Yeah, they were on the payroll.
Okay.
Some had not shown up for years. And so I did my first meeting with them on the 27th. I got sworn in on the 25th. On the 27th, I called them all to the quadrangle at City Hall. 9,500 guys showed up. Yeah. And I told them the story of David and Goliath in the Bible. That the armies of Israel had been at that valley for 40 days, being taunted by this Philistine giant. David came. They tried to put armor on David. He said, no. Let me use what I'm used to, my fire, my sling, what I'm used to. But David does something that people never think about. He knelt down by the brook and picked 5 stones. And with the first stone, angushed the guy. He didn't come with those stones from home. Those stones had always been there for the 40 days and 40 nights that they were being taunted. And I told the staff at City Hall, you are the stones. You've been here when the giant of corruption or lack of service, whatnot. It is you guys. I'm not coming with a new, that, you guys know nothing. Let me show you how, because that's how people fail. Government is a dark room. You're like a blind man in a dark room looking for a black cat that is not there. And guys are just watching you. The eyes have adjusted. They come and they go. And so I started by creating order within City Hall. I put up, suggestion boxes that I am the only one with the keys for the staff to speak to me directly and tell me what's happening. And the level of information I got in the first few weeks was amazing. First of all, our staff had never been getting their salaries on time. Yeah, the reductions used to be diverted. Whether it is NHIF, their loans, and pay as you earn. I found a huge debt with KRA, that of course now we've been sorting out monthly. But I said, before the 30th of each month, I'll make sure my staff get a salary. And Nairobi is the only actually government entity now that can say proudly for the last year, every month salaries have been paid on time. And that motivates the staff.
And deductions are remitted to the relevant institutions.
Are remitted to the relevant institutions, to their pensions, their taxes, etc. We've been sorting out the backlog because now you're dealing with years of neglect. And remember now the immediate past 5 years, Nairobi had been on free fall. It is just God who was holding us together. Because remember, the county government that was there in 2-3 years, the governor was out. NMS comes in, and instead of sorting the problem, they go away to another building and get a fresh team of people to deal with a few things. That again became a huge mess. In 2 years, we gave them 27 billion shillings. But despite that, you find, and of course, some money came from national government. Then you still find pending bills of 16 billion. So you wonder, where did 40 plus go to in 2 years? And at that time, now the staff of Nairobi feel they're being treated like second-class staff. That there's a
somebody else has come in and they're more special than them.
Yeah, and now taken select few. And so you have to deal with all of that, bring it together. And there's a political dynamic still.
Governor, I'm just going to stick on that particular issue that you talk about, staff not being paid. There's obviously demotivation. City council, Nairobi city is a mess, essentially.
Yeah.
Did you find out who was doing this? Because money is not diverted. People divert it. Money is not stolen. People steal it.
Yes, and
so have you been able to find out who did this, and then have there been repercussions moving forward?
Of course, there's only so much we can do. So we forward it to the EACC and say, look, this is what has been happening. Yeah, this is what we found, because you have to start on a clean slate. This is what we found. Those officers that used to play those roles, in the finance department, HR, whatnot. Of course, I said I will not work with them. I brought in different people, promoted some from within who had. And you see, the good thing of being senator before is that then you also know these people. There's this guy who was always good, but because of standing for the truth, had been moved to the dog unit or was moved to Mutuini, but he is actually the guy who should be in procurement. And you hear those stories because people come to you, And so I was able to bring back a proper team, but a lot of those files are still at the EACC. We've sent those documents. So we've been able to just bring some sense of motivation. I still meet with the staff regularly. I meet with the union, and now creating proper leadership cadences, that people know every so often there's this level of leadership that meets. Of course, you bring in your chief officers. I brought in a fresh team of chief officers, and mixed with those who'd been there who were promoted. You know, the people who never realized they could be promoted. I have CECs or ministers who had been in City Hall, and when their colleagues see, oh, this guy can get to that top level, they get motivated that it's possible. And so that's within City Hall. City Hall Annex, from the time it was constructed, had never seen a coat of paint. It was like dungeons. Unaweza nyongwa.
It was a dark.
And when I decided to do renovations, the first time I went there, they were shocked. I went there second. I said, we've never seen a mayor in this building, leave alone a governor, coming to see how we are working. Someone brings curtains from home because of this, of the sunlight.
And this is City Hall Annex.
This is City Hall Annex.
That is adjacent to City Hall.
No, the lift's not working.
It's not across the road.
It's not across. It's adjacent. It's an annex. Lift's not working. The toilets are a mess. And so one of the first things we did, even before looking at my office, was to renovate City Hall Annex. And if you go there now and see the works that are going on, it gives them a sense of dignity. The built environment gives you some sense of dignity that even you can bring your child to work and see where you're working. Before, it was you'd never bring them in there. Yet, it was a health hazard. In fact, I have one of my CECs used to say, this place, the way we go and inspect other people's premises, this one should be closed first, because it was inhabitable. It was
the first one that needed to go.
First one that needed to be sorted out. So we start with the staff. Make sure they get motivated, they understand what we expect of them. I started with sector meetings. For a week, we would leave at midnight or 1. Present to me on markets. And so what they were used to were leaders who would sit in the presentation for 5 minutes and say, okay, next. I'm like, no, go back. What are you saying at your 60% in dry? Are you sure? I'll pick up my call. Mwangi, nini mefika hapi. So they're like, okay, this is a different guy. He knows the county. He knows every corner. He knows. You will not tell me City Market is not working. I'll call the chair lady, of the market. You won't tell me that you've done this in Dagoretti. I'll call the guy down there on the ground, and so that has brought in.
So it's about bringing order.
So you first
to
start
City Hall
order,
first.
You first start with, you're as good as your team. So you first start within City Hall, and people realize, okay, it's not business as usual, but not in the way people do it. Come into a hospital and fire everyone. And you must get to the root of it. And that's what I've done in healthcare. You remember the first 2 weeks, there was a case of a lady who lost her twins, Lucy. And I went there on a Sunday, and the situation was terrible. A lady who's given birth the night before, C-section, the following day is on a bench. You can imagine how uncomfortable that is. 4 ladies sharing beds. People not being treated, there being no drugs. So instead of also, just saying, this is terrible, you go home, I set up a health reforms task force with the professionals. Because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a professional leader, I'm not an engineer, but I'm a leader. So I got Professor Olive Mugenda, Dr. Githinji Gitahi, former CS Mwangangi. I got Dorcas Kemunto, who's in HR, because you must look at different things in healthcare. Supply chain, the human resource component of it, health information, the technology. And that was on the 20th day of being in office. And they sat down, they listened to the people, they looked at best practices, they gave me a report on what to do in health. And what we've been doing is implementing. So based on that report, number 1, I did away with all the boards of the level 5 facilities, removed them because how they were appointed was not really to sort out healthcare. It was just thanking people. And who did I put to chair those different boards? Members of that task force who had done a deep dive into the issues. So Dr. Githinji Gitai is the chair of Mbagathi Hospital now. At Mama Lucy of Dorcas Kemunto. At Pumwani you have Mercy Mwangangi. At the Nairobi Funeral Home, which was City Mortuary, you have Johansen Odur, the pathologist. And then I brought in the position of CEO that now we've been able to hire. So those hospitals are now led by a CEO. Because you need somebody who sees beyond just medical treatment. A hospital is from the time you get to the gate. How are you received? How are the facilities? Is there water? Are the beds enough? Stall projects that were in Mama Lucy, I revived them. And would you believe that Nairobi had never had a public ICU as a county? The only ICU in Nairobi was Kenyatta Hospital. The only public ICU, and Kenyatta is a referral hospital. You don't just go there.
That's never an ICU.
It didn't. I did the first ICU at Mama Lucy. Mbagathi had no, in fact, now is when we're doing the ICU from Mbagathi, and there was no neonatal ICU. I've done the first neonatal ICU and the first newborn unit, the first blood bank in Nairobi, the second unit done. That was within the first 6 months. To get people are shocked, and to know how it goes deep. You think you just do things. My former housemate, who I used to live with, calls me and tells me, "Hey, Saks, this thing you launched, you have no idea who it has helped. My grandma." And you're like, okay, that comes close.
That's how you see impact. But how is it possible that Mama Lucy was constructed just the other day and it didn't have an ICU facility?
It did not have an ICU facility.
A HDU?
Nothing. It was just wards. Didn't have a HDU, didn't have an ICU. So now we do.
So when during COVID, and counties were reporting the number of ICUs that they had, what was Nairobi reporting?
Incidentally, I was the chair of that committee. There's the assumption that Nairobi is good. So I was going to Meru. We were looking at Embu. We pinned down the Isiolo governor for his ICU not having enough beds. He had an ICU, but the beds were not enough.
Right. Yep.
But you always assume
that Nairobi has ICUs.
Fine.
People go to private facilities. We had not received drugs for 3 years in Nairobi.
Okay, but Governor, when the county governor of Nairobi was reporting,
there was no governor. That was a problem.
And NMS were reporting to the president then, because they were asking the National Response Committee, tell us the number of ICU beds that you have. Each county was reporting. What was Nairobi reporting?
You see, the problem of that transfer of functions was that there was very hazy accountability. So Parliament, first it was not clear who reports to Parliament. And so you'd call the county government and they'll say, we can't talk about this. It has been moved to another entity. By the time you call this military guy, he's not coming to Parliament. He's coming very late. And so there was very little accountability. That's what I'm saying. And I actually asked for that audit. What happened in those 2 years? And those pending bills that they incurred, I moved them to the Executive Office of the President. And we agreed with the Auditor General, those should be sorted at the Executive Office of the President. You don't do a transfer of functions to help a county and then leave it worse off than before you took that function.
You've been on this line for a while, not just even today.
Yeah.
The NMS, you feel like they did not deliver value?
They delivered value in many respects. There are many areas in which they did work.
Which were these areas?
Number one, Cabro in town. In some places, there was very good pathways, walk paths, if you look outside. Though, of course, we'd ask questions like outside Parliament, the tarmac was all okay. Why do you have to uproot it to bring Cabro? But they did that. Number two, boreholes, 100 boreholes across the city.
And they're working?
Of course, that was a problem because it looked good. But do you know the World Health Organization recommended levels of fluoride are 1.5 parts per million. A lot of the boreholes east of Nairobi are up to 8 or 6. And so that water is not safe for human consumption. You need to actually dilute it. But will you tell those people don't drink this water? So it created a problem. You see what happened? They had a lot of pressure to show performance. They build dispensaries and hospitals, bring people quickly, call the president to show him. After that, the place is closed.
What do you mean?
Yes, are you saying there were 23 hospitals that were put up in Nairobi.
Most of them have
saying
nothing.
That those facilities today are not functioning?
Most of them had nothing. I'm equipping them now. They have no equipment. What hospital is not just a hall. It needs equipment. It needs staffing. You need to have a supply chain of medicine. If I'm telling you for 3 years there was no supply because of a 185 million debt, which by now I've cleared 160 and got dower of 244 million. Every facility today in Nairobi has drugs. So there's a lot of...
This is a big concern.
Yes, it is.
We hosted the then General, Lieutenant General Badi here.
Yeah.
We hosted his Chief Officer for Health here.
Dr. Oluga.
Dr. Uma Oluga.
Yes.
And they talked about the hospitals that they were building.
Yes.
And it was not just a hospital. It was actually a turnkey project. Turnkey project means facility, the infrastructure, plus staff, plus a contract for the supply of equipment, plus a contract for the supply of consumables, all those things. So by the time we're saying that this particular unit is open, it has everything.
Plug and play.
We can take a walk with you.
Are you saying that they were not plug and play?
No, they were not. They were not. I mean, I must
have you looked back at what they were doing in terms of, because they contracted people to supply? Is it that the contracts were not
some of those contracts,
effected?
for instance, some of them were inflated. You know, they were doing it through Ambref and Megascope, this company of our friend. Really, what was on paper and what was on the ground is different. And that's why I've asked for the professionals to audit it. If I take you today to High Ridge Hospital, it's empty, you know. Now is when we've been able to get into those arrangements of stocking those hospitals. If you go to Mwiki, in fact, even pregnant ladies were brought to look pregnant there. You know, then they'll take it back to the community. It's really not right. So there's what they did good.
One of the people that you brought in as a health reform task force is the boss of Amref.
Yes.
So what does he tell you?
You know, that, I mean,
what was the arrangement with NMS?
They contracted the guy to build the facility. It was just the facility. So the buildings are there, you know. But a hospital is more than just a building. So for me, I said, look, and my attitude and disposition now is this. Whatever happened in the past happened. I'm now in charge. You know, no one will fail to get healthcare and think about Badi or Sonko or Kidero. They know it is Sakaja. So that's what I'm saying, lazima work. So whatever happened, let it have happened. For accountability, the institutions for public accountability, let them do their investigations, look at it. But for now, I'm stocking those hospitals. I've hired the CEOs. I'm hiring nurses. Now we've put out, you know, an advertisement for clinical officers, around, I think, 900 or something. And clinical officers, medical officers, pharmacists. There's an entire, you know, if you go to the jobs portal for Nairobi County, you'll see. Because we must get it right. We can't just sit agonizing about the past. But that was the case in many things. I mean, that a very good roads project that was started. CRBC ended up not being paid. They were incomplete. I've been pushing the national government, please complete these ones which you had started. What they did, which was amazing and which is helping me, was an asphalt plant.
Yep.
Yeah, the asphalt plant that was given to us in Kangundo Road has helped me carpet very, very many roads. You know, many kilometers of roads are now carpeted. I had to, of course, it had stalled for a while. I had to get a guy from India and beg Muteshi, please get me a permit for this guy. Muteshi is at immigration. The guy came in for a weekend through Buildcraft, the guys who had been contracted. He came, sorted out, reprogrammed because of some sabotage. You know, they messed up the machine. And now,
at what point? At point of transition?
Before I got in, before you got in, it had not been working. So it took some time. And so what we do is change the kind of contracts you do. You do hard packing on the roads, the stones and whatnot, and then we put lami. If you go to Dagoretti North, you'll see. If you go to Salim Road, Mudiora Road in Kawangware, if you go to Ngumo, all the way from Bagathi, inside the estates, they are done. If you go to TRM Drive in Roysambu, if you go to Kayole, Joharis Road, the Wopa, across the city, Umoja, you know, and people are getting excited, you know, that this is possible. So what I'm doing now is I want to set up another plant on the other side of town. You know, so that we have more than one asphalt plant. All we do is buy the materials, buy the bitumen, buy the dust and all that, and then get into those contracts. So, and in fact, many of the MCAs tell us, please don't put my road in the budget for roads, because the ones the county are doing are better than the ones you give contractors. Because the contractors are trying to save on lami. Me, I'm putting a proper layer. You know, a proper layer, because it is our asphalt
job to do.
You know, and so that works.
I'll just take a break. 26 minutes, 25 minutes to 8 o'clock. Governor Sakaja, you know, like calling it on the three names. Sakaja Arthur Johnson.
Sakaja Arthur Johnson.
He's the governor of Nairobi City County. As we take this break, just tell us, because Ndu will tell us about traffic.
Yes.
Green Park, bus terminus.
Yes.
Is it working or is it not? Is it ever going to work?
It will work as something else, and I'll give you the plans for it. I'll even show you the designs.
So it's no longer a bus stand?
No, it's being used. There are many long distance vehicles still using it.
Okay.
Yeah, but we can derive more value. That is possibly the highest piece of real estate, the most valuable piece of real estate in East Africa. You know, it was valued at 13 billion. You don't make it a bus stop. You can derive more value from it.
Okay. Back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Heri Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
Baridi ni degree ngapi hapa?
Hata sijui, lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ, when he slapped those guys wenye walikuwa wanauza mboga ndani ya kanisa, took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Cloudy conditions, a possibility of a drizzle in Nairobi at 13, highs of 27. We'll see highs of 28 in a mostly sunny Nakuru at 13, and it's 14 and cloudy in Nyeri, 12 and sunny in Eldoret. At 24 degrees, Mombasa is cloudy, highs of 29, and we'll also see highs of 29 in a cloudy Malindi at 25. It's sunny at 19 in Kisumu, highs of 30, and highs of 30 as well in a sunny Kakamega at 18. Looking into Kampala, the sun is up at 19, highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 30 in Dar es Salaam, where it's sunny at 23. 15 and clear in Johannesburg, highs of 28, and Lagos will see highs of 29, where it's mostly cloudy at 24. It's 23 and cloudy in Kinshasa, highs of 31 and lows of 22.
Spice up your life.
Uhuru Highway is where you see most of it this morning, coming in from Langata Road, touching on Aerodrome, and then as you get towards Bunyala at the junction, there's traffic there. So Nyayo Stadium through towards Haile Selassie at the junction, it is busy. It's also busy on the Thika Superhighway past the Garden City Mall junction, and you're going to go bumper to bumper all the way through, use your service lanes until you get to Pangani, where you can't, rather past Survey where you can't. So let's also look at Kiambu Road, where it's busy at this point. Parklands Road leading onto Limuru Road, Wangari Maathai, Muranga Road, all of that is moving very slowly today. Coming off the Northern Bypass, you should be fine. We'll see some movement on Kitisuru just for this point. Apart from that, you should be fine. Let us know what happens as you go along your morning. Spice FM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
1 year since he was sworn into office. 1 year, 2 months, 28 days. How many days? How's it counting now? Since the 25th of August last year.
Yeah, now it's 1 year, 1 week, 2 days, 20 hours, 39 minutes. Or 53 weeks and 3 days. Or 374 days. Or 8,996 hours.
For the last 8,996 hours, Sakaja has been the governor of Nairobi. What has he done? What did he promise to do? What are we expecting him to do? Very many questions on health.
Yeah, quite a number. So, okay, it goes.
Let me just pick on this one.
Take one. So you have
talked about now bringing in a CEO.
Yes.
Right?
CEOs for Mwani, Mbagathi,
these main hospitals. Mutuni, yeah. So, but is that addressing the perennial problem like you've identified in Nairobi? So you have health facilities. First of all, we didn't have sufficient health facilities.
Yeah.
Now we have some health facilities. Do they have adequate staff? Do they have the labs? Do they have the consumables?
What do they have?
What do they have?
Beyond the building.
So, are they actually providing the service that they should?
Yes, a lot of our facilities, all our facilities that are in operation have actually, now they have the drugs, they have staff. We're hiring more staff. Many of the contracts of those who had been under NMS go to an end. Some are coming to an end next year. And so we said, let's give them first priority, that those who want to come work with us, we are DHC staff, 100 and something, who we want to onboard to come in. But at the lowest level, let's start down, bottom up, primary healthcare is really important, prevention. So we have 7,460 community health promoters, what we used to call CHVs. They were never on any allowance or any stipend. And I made noise about it in the Senate. I said, these guys perform such an important function for every 100 households, And so I'm proud that we're the first county, right from August when I got in, that has them on a stipend, and they get 3,500 shillings. They love it. And now we're going to increase it to 6,000 because what government has offered counties is that, let's do 2,500, you do 2,500. So the 2,500 coming from national government, I'll just add to what I'm already paying them for them to get 6,000. I won't give them the 500, I'll put it into their NHIF, so I'll pay for them the insurance. So they are also covered. So the CHVs is an amazing thing. These CEOs cascade their facilities down. So we have the sub-county medical officers, you have level 3 hospitals, level 4 hospitals. Now, so we're putting them now on a centralized HMIS, Health Management Information System. So that if you're treated in Mutuini, you find someone went to Mutuini, was treated, they don't feel ingi mzuri, so they go to Mama Lucy, they don't say what they were treated for. They're given another cocktail of drugs that then mess the person up, and so now implementing that HMIS and you have a card, then your x-rays are on that, of course with data protection as it should be. So if you've done x-rays, if you've done any scans, whatever you've been on, the doctor can be able to see that and help you. Our doctors had not been motivated because of lack of equipment and facilities, and I'm really trying the best to make sure they have what they need to treat people. Sometimes we blame the doctors when they strike, but it's very frustrating when you lose a life that you could have saved. Right. And I understand them. When you lose a life that you could have saved. How do we get to do this? By raising revenue. I've collected the highest revenue in 5 years. 10.6 B. We've never gotten to that in 5 years. It's been higher before once, and that's why we've readied our systems for this year to get to 20 billion shillings. My finance bill is with the assembly. We are tightening the system. There have been lags with the kind of system we had that sometimes you do invoicing, it doesn't show up. I know the architects have had an issue, people in the built environment, and I'm very happy to report that most of that is now sorted, so that first of all everything is digitized. Again, first county to fully digitize all payments. There's no cash payment in Nairobi. All 160 something revenue streams are fully digitized. *647#. And I tell people, if you pay someone cash, you're paying that guy, you're not paying the county. So
the question is here, and very basically so, 10.5 billion shillings in a year. 10.6 billion shillings in a year. It is clear that for a county to run, doesn't matter where it is, you obviously need the money to have that happen. These services that are being sought after, the fuel is money.
Yes, you need money.
You need it. 10.6, how have you been able to do that? Significantly more than anybody has done.
10.6 plus, I must also take credit for the share we get from national government, because I was the senator. And you remember we had a fight. We had a fight for 10 sessions. Some of us were being arrested. People were being, because of the formula. But I raised it from 15 billion to 19. The previous formula that was being brought and pushed that time, Nairobi would have gotten 100 million more. And people didn't understand what I was doing. And I said, no. If you're talking about population, you have a normal distribution curve. Nairobi must be on one end and Lamu on the other end. Anything that doesn't show that is voodoo mathematics. It's voodoo maths. Because Kirinyaga was number one, and then incidentally the chair of budget is from Kirinyaga. I was like, what do you mean? It's impossible. It can't be a coincidence. And so we changed that, and so Nairobi got an extra 3 billion. So now I'm getting 20 billion from the national share. And it's not from national government. People should stop confusing. National government doesn't give counties money.
It's shareable revenue.
It's shareable revenue. The constitution gives this to national and gives this to counties. So people should stop asking, waziri tusaidia na pesa. No. The same way they draw is the same way we draw from a formula as chapter 12 of the constitution. So there's that 20 billion plus now what we've been able to raise to 10.6 billion. And how we've been able to do it, number one, is empowering at the lowest level, at the ward, the revenue teams. We've now established the Nairobi Revenue Authority as an entity. That's how we have KRA. So we have Nairobi Revenue Authority. The chair is Andrew Chege. Andrew Chege is the guy who came up with ETR. He was working at K. He's done amazing things across, across the world. He's been a consultant. They won't take credit for the increased revenue because they came towards the tail end. But it's the team that we've had. Just having clarity. We had revenue meetings every day, stream by stream. So we look at parking. How do we sort out parking? How do we know that people are querying properly? Because many times you get complaints, oh, my car, I've gotten an SMS, but my car has not left the house. My car is in, and I'm in Westlands, and those are human errors, because what happens when you park and you pay, we have attendants with a tablet, and they come and key in your number plate and see if you've so they query it.
Yeah.
So sometimes they mistake KBR and they write KB, D or something, and so we're putting out two-step verification. That they ask, are you really sure? Or you can take a photo and it reads the number instead of you manually putting it in. So we sit stream by stream and say this is what we must do, and also talking to the sectors. So I've had meetings with the Matatu sector. Every quarter, I just miss one quarter, where once you speak to them and engage them, their revenue goes up because they understand why you're asking us to pay. And they explain to me, look, this fee you're giving us for trucks in industrial area is 3,000. We're not paying because the bribe is 1,000. So just make the fee 1,000. We'll pay you. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So reduce it, increasing compliance.
So where were these revenue leakages?
The revenue leakages were number one by having human interaction with cash. When you don't digitize and people pay in cash, those are the most popular part of City Hall. For the last 30, 40 years was a place called Cash Office. And there are people, I will not mention their names because they don't have a right of reply, who have been accused of carrying revenue daily home. 3 million shillings a day or 4 million shillings every day.
Did they come back with
in
it
cash?
In the morning?
No, I mean, these are people who have been in leadership, who, and now there are many cases in court, who would take money every day home. And from the onset, I said, look, I'm not interested in a shilling of revenue as governor. Because people would say, oh, no, even if you get this company to do for you 4% of the commission, unakula 2%. I told guys, my friend, I'm young. I want to be around these streets for a while. I will not try to be a billionaire today. So, wacha nikaekae, nihangaike hapa na nyinyi miaka 10 and then we go somewhere else.
Cash was
a
weak point.
Cash is a weak point. And even as you deal with corruption, I know these days tunasema mambo ni matatu, but technology should be the first thing. When you reduce human interaction with cash, you reduce that temptation, you reduce... Of course, ideally, we should just, have good people, but that temptation that today you've collected $1 million, you're coming to bring it to City Hall, and who would know if it was 900, not 1.1? So just reduce it, cutting that off, let it come in to the system. We've had challenges with the system that we're using. There was no stability for some time. We've sat on it. We've entered into now a partnership with an MOU with Safaricom to strengthen the system, to monitor and evaluate, because they're the experts, in that kind of technology.
Whose system is this? We saw Governor Kidero had a system. Sonko came, had a system. NMS had a system. I mean, every time you go and try and renew your license or pay for services, you have to look for what is the latest platform I'm logging on to. So whose system is this one now? Is this a Sakaja system?
No, it's still the same number you used during NMS, still *647#. I said, let me not bring confusion. So at the front end, for you as a customer, you still pay the same way you paid. You'll see the interface maybe looks better. It has let's make Nairobi work. It has, there's now an app
colorful.
We're embedding on M-Pesa called My Nairobi app, which beyond just paying, you can raise issues, raise complaints, talk to Sakaja. We have that. So the first governor was using, I think, Jambo Pay. That set up a system. The second one went on with Jambo Pay, then went to NBK, Noveta. And then now KRA was appointed an agent when NMS came. And KRA then created another system. So what we've done is that the government payment platform that was being built is what we've taken. Because despite doing all that, Nairobi had a fully fledged data center that the World Bank spent a lot of money on, that was just sitting there, So I said, no, whatever system it is, let's bring it here, because it's really just programming. Because what happens is once you pay through that platform, the money comes to our account. So it really doesn't. In fact, you must have an open API. Banks have come to me telling me, oh, please let us collect for you. I said, let everybody collect for us, The same way you can pay your power bill anywhere. Then they route it to us. I said, yeah, just collect. Collect for us. I'm not giving you a commission. Your work is to bank, so you bank. So just strengthening that system.
How then do they make money?
They make money by doing the business of banking, by attracting customers. So if people know, the easiest way for me to transact with Nairobi is through Equity. I'll open an account there, and I'll do other things.
And
so that's how.
And there'll be bank charges.
And there'll be bank charges now for the
But
the
Excellency,
client.
I have to ask you this question.
Yeah.
When you talk of revenue, have you gotten around to figuring out what the potential revenue actually is?
Yes.
So that when you say you've collected this amount of money, you measure it against what it is that you could actually collect.
A lot of studies have been done.
Yes.
We've also looked at our revenue potential. For now, I see it sitting at around 53 billion. We can do 53B. if we, for instance, we've been doing a mapping of
that is at the current rates that are being charged.
At the current rates.
Okay.
Of course, fortunately for us, we've been able to, we're the only county again that has upgraded to the 2019, to a recent valuation rule. Yeah, for land rates. Yeah, for land rates. People are paying land rates of the 80s because you're stuck in the 1980 valuation rule. And so, thanks to, interacting with the president and the chief justice, we set up a valuation court under the 1967 Rating Act. We set up the valuation court. We are now at 2019 land rates, but the percentage value that you pay is low. So it's 0.019%. And now that is what will increase slowly. Now the clincher this year of where we're going to get a lot of that revenue is what we call the sectional properties. So for instance, in Kileleshwa, you have this house that's a bungalow that pays rates of, let's say, 100,000. And then next door, the same size of land has 50 apartments paying the same amount of rates. Surely you cannot. Because you need us to give you more services. You need me to expand the water, you're damaging power, the roads, more power, etc. So the sectional property is low passed, and now we're putting it in our finance bill, such that each and every of those units should pay worth the value of their holding. So that alone will possibly even triple the amount of
money
we're getting. And it's not just to collect revenue. It is, how do we serve you? When I talk to guys in Karen, they're like, now we have streetlights on Ngong Road. So we understand where our money is going to. Of course, you've painted the poles. I'm like, I have to paint them so it's us who've done it. So that you know where your money is going to.
But there's something else that bothers me.
Yeah.
When we talk about all these developments in the high rises in the Kileleshwa and the Kilimani areas, good. And then we look at east of Nairobi River.
Yes.
There's something that is definitely absent. Public areas.
Yes.
In the master plan for Nairobi, those areas were there. What happened to them?
A lot of them were grabbed, and we've been reclaiming. I think you saw what happened with Kimathi recently. Someone was grabbing the ECD, and what they were targeting is a huge field behind there, and of course we stopped it. If you go to Embakasi East Tasia, in fact that one is madness. I went to Kwandege Hospital. The hospital, if I'm to illustrate, is possibly like this rectangle, or let's say this dex, this rectangle. This is a hospital. This is our boundary. There's wards that are supposed to be there. On this side, inside the property, someone has reached 7th floor, building apartments.
Okay.
I told the guy, thank you for your donation to Nairobi County. Those will be staff quarters. We'll do the finishing. Thanks for what you've done. And we're fencing it in. Because you must put a stop to it. Between the main block and the corner, President Uhuru commissioned an incinerator. Then someone says the land in between the administration block and incinerator is mine. And incidentally, I used to be the chair of NSSF because that was a surrender from NSSF. Tell my friend, please, I'm sorry. Please take a walk. That is public land. You must just stop it. And then when I went to that hospital on that day, the vijanas come, hey, super governor, nini. So, me, I think I have a kijana who's maybe high on something. And he says, hakuna dawa, sikupata dawa. I'm like, what do you mean hakuna dawa? Hakuna dawa. Me, I know I've brought dawa to this hospital. So he removes the slip. He was there the day before. And he shows me these two. I was told the hakuna, but I was given this paracetamol. Then I start seeing the person in charge shaking. I ask him, where is this dawa? We go into the pharmacy. I was actually leaving.
You went?
So I opened my, I get out of the car. I go back. The pharmacy is locked. It's 3 p.m.
3 p.m.
That person has ametoroka. So we ask for keys. I say, I'm not leaving until you open it up. We open the pharmacy. We find the dawa there. But what is interesting, right across that gate is a pharmacy.
Right.
Which I have closed. First of all, they had no licenses. And I've asked my assembly to bring in legislation of limiting the radius from a public hospital that you can open a private hospital or a dispensary. Because for a long time, our drugs either go to those dispensaries or they make sure they don't order what is used frequently. And so people end to across hapo, kuna dawa. So I know people, there's an urgency of seeing things moving. But remember, this is decades of decay that we're sorting out step by step.
But then as we continue talking about that public order, your officers are still licensing and allowing people to put up new developments.
Yes.
Are they now insisting that when you put up a new development, there is assurance that there's going to be
a green space,
that it's you're going to have those facilities available?
So you see, what we didn't have was a proper land use policy development control zoning guidelines that we've refreshed and we have sent to the assembly. Because as we said with the proverb, where there is no transgression, where there is no law, there is no transgression. So the development control policies, land use, and we've done public participation have been sent there. In the Urban Planning Technical Committee, the team that actually approves buildings, we've put the professionals there. So we have architects, we have the Engineering Association of Kenya represented. We even have the Law Society in the in the appeal committee of that. But the interesting addition is we have the resident associations. So we have Dr. Abdulmalik Gishuki, who represents KARA, Kenya Area Resident Alliance of Resident Associations, sitting there. So that you don't say it is Kanjo that gave that approval. No, it is actually a collective committee that has Nairobians and the professionals.
Even the neighborhoods will participate.
They need to participate. They must participate. And there are many that we've stopped. There's someone who's trying to put up a station somewhere near State House. One is okay. Another one, he has put a lot of pressure. But because we know it is not right for it to be done, previously 10 million bob would have gotten it done. 10 million for Kwahuyu. We have refused. I have been offered a lot of money for people who want to put up things that they should not put. And I've refused. Because if we don't sort, and I'm telling you, we have just this window. If we don't sort Nairobi in these 5 years, there'll be anarchy. We will not be able to salvage this city in many, many respects. So I'm glad, despite those challenges, look at Dandora Stadium now. Dandora Stadium is 95% complete. If you look at the photos, you'll think you're at Stamford Bridge, or some place in London. It has sold for years before I got in. In the Senate, there was a case of corruption that the variation was done. And I said, look, ECC, guys, you have stopped this thing. Who is hurting? It's not the contractor or the person who was in government that time. It is the Vijanas. There are 13 teams there. I know 6 kids who got shot down in Eldoret because they went back to crime. And so finishing that stadium, and that's why we're going to launch my tournament in the week or two, actually, from now, where number 1 team will get 3 million shillings, number 2, 2 million, number 3, 1 million. Look at City Stadium. Derelict. That place should be, it used to be my dad used to take me there to watch Gor Mahia and the AFC. That time he was the treasurer of KFF. And we'd go there and it was magical. We've broken ground for Joe Kadenge Stadium. That is what we're now calling it. Joe Kadenge Stadium. It will be a multi-complex. So the stadium will be a football stadium, purely football. But we will do a basketball court on the other side. And we finished a basketball court at Jericho. So all of these things are going on, despite that challenge of getting the resources.
The things done.
Woodley Stadium, we've broken ground as well, and it's ongoing. Mwiki. So there is the soft things, the hard things, and that's why when I keep saying lazima iwak.
There are things that are moving and others are taking a while.
Like, and I'll talk about those. But the thing that is really moving, that touches my heart, is the feeding program.
We'll talk about that.
Kabisa.
In the next hour, the governor stays on, and I think very many questions. So some of those questions include pending bills, noisy, disorderly neighborhoods, garbage, that's waste management, there's public transport. You promised that Nairobi is going to have barrows.
Yes.
Where are those barrows? You'll tell us about that. The health as well, water and sanitation.
Yes.
Big questions. Let's address those. And of course, Dish in a County, because that was one of the key campaign pledges.
Like the first pledge, actually.
Feeding our school children.
Yeah.
How's that going? We'll discuss all those when we come back with the Nairobi City County Governor, Sakaja Arthur Johnson.
I like how you say it. I should hire you for my events.
Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Obaga. President William Ruto has welcomed more than 20 presidents who will be attending the African Climate Summit, which officially starts today at the KICC Hall, Nairobi. More than 20,000 other delegates are attending the summit, which will discuss the effects of climate change, especially in African countries.
As the chairperson of the Committee of African Heads of State and Government on Climate Change, and as President of Kenya, it is an immense privilege to have the honor of inviting fellow heads of state and government from every African nation and throughout the world, heads of national delegations, corporate leaders, and captains of industry, representations of development institutions, and every distinguished participant to Nairobi for the Africa Climate Summit. As Africa, we are committed to bringing everyone on board in order to make every voice to be heard.
Ruto says the summit themed driving green growth and climate finance solutions in Africa is aimed at discussing measures that will see African countries deliver shared prosperity and sustainable development.
Since the climate crisis does not discriminate between the global north and the global south, or between rich nations or poor nations, effective climate action must recognize our shared threat as well as collective opportunity to develop and implement common global solutions.
The 7 Kamsa's major roads around Kenyatta International Convention Centre have been blocked by police ahead of the start of the summit. Police declared Harambee Avenue, Parliament Road, City Hall Way, Taifa Road and the adjacent buildings marked red zone for security reasons. Nairobi Police Boss Adamson Bungei, who is overseeing multi-agency teams for security, has said that they've deployed enough officials to ensure the smooth running of the event. Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja says that despite the Nairobi Metropolitan Services Authority setting up various clinics in the city, the medical centres lack equipment, crippling health services. Speaking in Spice FM Situation Room, Governor Sakaja, however, said that plans are underway to ensure that the health centres acquire medical equipment as well as hire health workers to facilitate better health services.
Whatever happened, let it have happened. For accountability, the institutions for public accountability, let them do their investigations, look at it. But for now, I'm stocking those hospitals. I've hired the CEOs. I'm hiring nurses. Now we've put out, an advertisement for clinical officers, around, I think, 900 or something. And clinical officers, medical officers, pharmacists. There's an entire, if you go to the jobs portal for Nairobi County, you'll see. Because we must get it right. We can't just sit agonizing about the past.
He has further called on the national government to complete all the projects that were initiated by NMS.
I've been pushing the national government, please complete these ones which you had started. What they did, which was amazing and which is helping me, was an asphalt plant.
Yep.
Yeah, the asphalt plant that was given to us in Kangundo Road has helped me carpet very, very many roads. Many kilometers of roads are now carpeted. I had to, of course, it had stalled for a while. I had to get a guy from India and beg Muteshi, please get me a permit for this guy. Muteshi is at immigration. The guy came in for a weekend through Buildcraft, the guys who had been contracted. He came, sorted out, reprogrammed because there was some sabotage. They messed up the machine.
Kenya National Union of Teachers First Vice National Chairman Stanley Mutai is dead. NAT Secretary General Colin Soyu says Mutai died at a Nairobi hospital while receiving treatment. He adds that Mutai had been diagnosed with cancer a few months ago. He has eulogized him as a mentor and great patron. Police in Uganda say they've detained a 28-year-old man entering a church in the capital Kampala with an explosive device he planned to use for an attack. They say a manhunt for 3 other men, also believed to have been sent on similar bombing missions elsewhere in Uganda, is underway. They further say that the motives were unclear, but the Islamic State-linked Allied Democratic Forces has previously carried out deadly bomb attacks in Uganda. The detainee, named Kintu Ibrahim, was detained as he was about to enter Pentecostal Church Lubanga Miracle Center in the Lubanga suburb of South Kampala. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, after 8 o'clock and traffic then in different parts of the city. There's a bit of a fog in some parts, so you want to be careful. We're looking at traffic on Langata Road. It's touching on Uhuru Highway, then into the city. Looking a little bit better on the Thika Super Highway, but as you get to that Pangani underpass, it's going to clog up past Survey. It's bumper to bumper. You have the advantage of your service lanes until Survey, and then after that, you're done. Coming out of Westlands, it's chugging along slowly, getting out towards the CBD as well. Chiromo has quite some traffic. It's coming in with traffic from Wangari Maathai. And then they're going to split then towards Maranga Road and other parts. Kiambu Road is also pretty busy. And we're looking at traffic then coming into the CVD from Mombasa Road. Spice FM KE on X. Let's keep things moving this morning.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to
It's 7
start
minutes
your
after
day.
8, Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues right here with Sakaja Arthur Johnson, the governor of Nairobi City County. He's here for the second hour. CT,
Yes, please.
just for the benefit of those who missed the proverb, please remind us
Yes,
of the proverb.
in case they miss the origin of that particular proverb, they're from the country of Gabon, otherwise known as the Gabonese Republic. Do in French it would be Republique?
The Gabonais.
Okay, very good. See?
And the people of Gabon are called what?
Gabonese.
No, Gabon
There are
no.
many people.
Not Gabonese and not Gabonese.
Naise.
Gambians.
Gambians, all right.
Gabu Gabu.
or Gabons. He who is free of fault will never die.
He who is free of fault will never die. Conversation continues. Governor, I just want to touch on quickly finishing up on this issue of budget, bills and all. Your budget for this year is about what? 30?
No, it's more than that. It should be
42 billion shillings, all right?
Yeah.
I look at it in terms of the breakdown, 21.3 shareable revenue, then conditional grants at 1.2 billion, and you're targeting to raise on-source revenue of 19.9 billion shillings.
Yes.
You have said you've raised the highest in the last 5 years at 10 billion shillings.
Yeah.
This is almost half of what you've budgeted for this year.
Yes.
What are you going to do to raise 19 billion shillings if the highest you've raised in 5 years is 10 billion?
First of all, if you analyze, the analysis we did of the last financial year revenue. So the financial year starts in July. So July, August, July 1st we were not in office. August, September is transition. October, those were the lowest. From November, December, it's been on an upward spiral. Looking at the holes that we've sealed by fully digitizing, and how we're now structuring the use of technology, On Saturday, I was in the office in the morning getting a presentation from some of my teams, IT teams from Nairobi Water, that on GIS, I can be able to, on a map, see this plot is owned by Eric Latiff, akona bill, hajalipa rates ama hajalipa maji. Just targeted enforcement for our debt collection unit.
Okay.
And so now that is what we're putting on our revenue system, so that we know who owes what where. Because many times, and before it turns green, the only way it can turn green is by that money going into our account. So no matter who you know, no one can help you. That's why I'm saying technology ndio adui ya wakora. Yeah. So until you've paid and it has come into the system, it will not turn green.
It will not.
And then we enforce on you. So for me, being able to do that. Number two, in the finance bill, we want to allow people to pay their rates monthly. Yeah. So instead of a huge bill of 200k or 150,000, you know how to break it down, and we'll give you 10 months to pay it. Then there can be more compliance. There are some new charges that are being introduced. Some are even lower than they were before, because we believe that increasing compliance will make you raise more money than just increasing the level of tax. Yeah. And I'll give you an example. There are these matatus that don't come into the CBD. You know, they fly out a ring road and they go to TRM. They have not been paying anything, not been getting services. And they came and said, please, if you just charge us a third, so that we're not harassed, of those who come into town, we will even collect for you. I told you about the guys who do the trailers, who have been paying a bribe of 1,000, but the charge is 3,000. Reduce it to 1,000, they pay you directly. Not that I'm excusing the bribery or anything, but you must be pragmatic to see how do you collect
these things will work.
Yeah. So just the mapping out, the different strategy and decentralizing to the lowest level is what we see as a great opportunity. And now that we have a stable system with partners, now we're working with eCitizen and Safaricom on our system to make sure that there's convenience.
These things work.
When it's convenient for people, it's easier for them to pay. And when they see services being rendered to them, there's a time people in Karen stopped paying rates. And they said now until and I told them now, you guys, me msijaribu yo, I will not show you guys because I'm giving you services, I'm doing your roads.
Excellency, there's a provision. There's a proviso for this one. It's not they didn't pay the money to the county, but they put it in an account, an extra account. Essentially,
they were providing their own services.
Yes, it was a protest.
And you see, for a long time, Nairobians provide their own services. You collect you pay a private garbage guy, you buy water from a Bowser, you have a private security.
But we still do that.
So the only public thing you'd use is maybe the road, but everything else, and that's what we're trying to move people from.
Away from that.
Because my work is to serve you. And I've told my staff, in fact, I've given them all books on how the leadership principles and cadences we're using this year. The first principle is an obsession with the customer. To look at things from the customer's perspective, to look at the hospital from a customer's perspective.
Make sure that I want to ask about the Nairobi Revenue Authority.
Yes.
You said you've brought in prominent people to sit under this authority.
Yeah.
But has it started working, Governor?
Yes. So we brought it to life. It had been created under the Nairobi Revenue Administration Act of 2021. The law had been passed, but nothing had happened. So we just brought it to life. We have now gotten the board. The board is going to hire a director general, like KRA is doing, from within the county or from without. Ideally from within, because you want people with certain knowledge. Yeah. We've gotten them office space. That we're kitting out at CBK Pension Towers. So it is ongoing. But that doesn't mean that...
When will it be fully operational, the Nairobi Revenue Authority?
It is not fully it's operational because even the staff who will go there are already staff who are in the county. For most part. It's just how Nairobi Water was formed. 90% of the guys who are engineers at City Council moved there. But in terms of the launch of it and, going to the offices and now Nairobians know there's an entity for revenue, I would give it 3 months. I'd give it 3 months from now.
Can I ask a question? You say revenue.
Yeah.
Is it only revenue or does it include investment?
No, for investment, we're doing something different. This is just like a KRA. You have KRA and you have Ken Invest.
This is for collection.
This is for collection. This is for exploring new ways of getting revenue. We're exploring, for instance, an infrastructure bond for the city. So they say we will need this, and now that other entity that brings together experts, and I'll speak into it. Then now look at what instruments can you use.
So is it an independent unit owned by the county government?
Yes. It is semi-autonomous.
Semi-autonomous.
Because part of the hitches you get in revenue collection is political interference. That an MCA says, watu wangu wasisumbuliwe kwa hii soko, and then you say now create an entity that is shielded from that politics.
But then therein lies a problem, because if indeed it is shielded, because this very problematic issue that we refer to the MCAs at are also productive in the sense that they create a form of balance. Now, if you create an independent unit, what stops it from going rogue?
No, they can't. If they go rogue, they still report to us. So they're semi-autonomous administratively in terms of the operation. But in terms of accountability, they report to the governor. In fact, the Public Finance Management Act is clear that the CEC for finance, is the authority that then appoints his agent or whatnot. So overall, is the one who has the constitutional responsibility.
Excellency, I see the benefits of it.
Yeah.
But I'm playing devil's advocate here. Because I see a situation where they're going to say, Sakaja has created this thing for himself.
Of course. Let me tell you.
Yes.
With politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. So as a leader, what do? Do you fear to be misunderstood, or do you do the right thing?
Do the right thing.
And I always say, as a leader, don't fear to be misunderstood. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later. Otherwise, you'll have paralysis of analysis. You'll never do anything. It'll be like the story of the guy and his son and the donkey. And then you'll never end. You'll end up doing nothing. So I'm confident that we will hit that revenue, and I'll be very happy to come back here and report even a higher figure.
We'll be looking forward to it.
More than 20 billion?
Possibly.
Actually,
it doesn't work.
Actually, it'll be more than 20 billion.
It can.
If you
One
ask
of the
me.
things that you've delved into quite some is Dishina County.
Dishi.
It's one of the things that you said you would do, and then we saw the rollout of it. So give us a little bit of insight into that and how it's actually working. It's interesting. I'm going to give this as a caveat because I spoke to a lady whose children eat in school. They didn't eat in school before. Chances of them coming home and getting a meal was slim.
Look at that.
So they ate something in the morning because that's what she could do.
She could provide.
She can see the difference now because they've had something to eat, and she can.
Also, the school is now in.
She can she can pay a little bit for each of her 3 children to eat in school. So we see, but then how you do?
I saw a tweet by Pastor Ken Aringo, a good friend of mine, and he tagged me. And he said today he had gone to his car wash and he finds the attendant is unusually happy. And he asks him, hey, kwani ni nini leo you're so happy? The guy says, man, hii kitu ya Sakaja imenitolea mzigo. That even as I'm hustling here and I'm not sure what I'll get, I know for sure my kids are eating. So let me just give a quick background. When I was the senator for Nairobi, you remember during COVID, a lot of our schools were vandalized. Desks were taken away. That COVID time was just a mess. People became crazy. And so I got a donation from Tetra Pak and some other partners and said, look, we have these desks, we want to give you. Choose 2 schools. So I chose Raila Educational Center in Kibra and Gatina Primary in Nagureti North. And when I went to give the desks now in Nagureti North, I asked the kids, hey, of course they're excited. Super Senator, sometimes they get excited when you show up. Mambo, so I play with them. Then I ask them, what do you guys want me to do for you? And you'd expect them to say, tupatie football, to chase the balls, or we want a school bus. They said, we want food. Man, as a parent, that, when a child says they want food, they actually really need food. They actually really need it. And I said, let me look into it. So I researched this thing. And I realized that there are more kids out of school in Nairobi than even the arid areas. All interventions before on school feeding were targeted to nomadic areas. In fact, the body in the ministry that deals with that is called NACONEC, is Nomadic Foundation something, that does school feeding. No one ever assumes that Nairobi, shamba ya mawe, if you have no money, you'll have no food and nowhere to stay.
Right.
So you can, just think about more kids not in school in Nairobi than Northeastern or Northern Kenya, Turkana, whatnot. And so I tried to bring a law. I saw there had been the National School Lunch, the National Lunch Act of the US, 1946. I looked at it. I looked at other jurisdictions. I saw India, what they're doing. And so I came up with the National School Lunch Act bill for Kenya. Processed it in the Senate. It went through the Senate, but actually we were not able to finish. And so the legislative framework was not set up. So I said, as governor, I will try and implement that.
Right.
So I caught up with a partner. Somebody told me, KJ actually, of the Great South, told me, come meet Wawira Njiru, see what Food for Education is doing. So he had built a kitchen using CDF, and they were giving children meals at 15 shillings. And I was amazed. And enrollment in the schools that were in that program went up 150%. 150% enrollment. In addition, performance went up 28 to 30% immediately in the first year.
Attendance
150%.
150%. Yeah.
100 of everyone who had been plus 50%. So it is over and above. And so I put it in our manifesto. I even took a presidential candidate then, who's not the president, to Mukarara Primary to serve food. He said, please let this be also the national manifesto. And he said they will match shilling for shilling, countries that do it. So what we've done now is this. We've built 10 kitchens in 10 weeks, constructed, fully following the procurement process. One kitchen serves between 10 to 15 schools producing 15,000 meals, 10,000 to 15,000 meals. Our partners have constructed one mega kitchen. We call it the Giga Kitchen. Just here in the Sol area, road, is it Road C or Road A? Beyond Enterprise Road. Does 60,000 plates a day. The cost of a meal is normally around 45 to 50 shillings. So we've been able to break it down. So we are subsidizing 25 shillings. Children in Investment Fund Foundation is doing 20 shillings. And the parent pays 5 bob. 5 bob, you know. And for 5 shillings, you get 650 grams of a nutritious meal, because now the standards of the food, the quality of the food must be high. World Food Program, World Health Organization standards. And we're trying to also make sure you also get a fruit where we can, you know, when they're in season. But you know, the saddest part, these kids who are so excited. In fact, just after this show, I'm taking the French delegation that has come for the climate summit. So they have a minister for development and their team. I'm taking them to Olympic and Toy Primary because they're giving me 1.4 million euros additional to the program. But what's sad is you give these kids the food, they don't finish it. They carry it home.
Yes.
For their siblings, sometimes for their parents. It's really sad. But I'm happy. We've created 1,500 jobs already.
Guarantee of continuity, and I think this is the fearful thing in the minds of people that all right, so 2023 came along and there was Governor Sakaja who instituted this thing in Nairobi. It's never been done before, at least not at a government level. What's the surety that 2024, 2025, because once you open that door, people who are dependent on, I've just told you, people who are dependent on it then become increasingly. So you've just said people take these meals, they go home. What is the surety that
just keep me as the governor? That's the first. Re-elect me. Anyway, so what we're doing, that's the easier way.
That's the easier way.
But so you can guarantee 10 years.
At least.
But what we're doing is we're setting up now a governance structure. So we have the school feeding regulations that we're taking through the assembly, so that there is a structure, there is a board where I can have Eric Latiff, Peter Ndogo of Safaricom. Because Kenyans are saying, man, we want to contribute.
Want to participate.
Can I adopt a child for a year? Can I send 2,000 shillings? Can I send 5K? You know? In fact, I think maybe after 2 financial years, I may not need to put a lot of budget into it. Because I put 1.7 billion in this financial year. I'm waiting for national government because the president said they will also match shilling for shilling. Because despite the kids in formal schools, there are kids who are in informal schools. And the informal schools, they're not at the academies. You know, Nairobi only has 209 public primary schools, which is very low. That is what a constituency in the rural area has, you know. And so you find a place, on Sunday it's a church, on Monday it's a school, in the evening it's a bar, the next day it's a women's meeting. Those ones are not even, they're Mambati structures that are schools, 50 students, 60. So we want to bring them in. So what we've done in addition to this, we've agreed with the president, is we're building an extra 5,000 classrooms in the next 3 years. That is doubling the number of schools we have in Nairobi in the next 3 years. So I'm doing 1,500. I've put now I'm putting in my supplementary 500 million per year, and he's doing 3,500, and he says he can even move it to 4,500 because we have been, and that's why even I shared the tear that day, because I felt, man, the government, we've just been unfair to these Nairobi kids. They have done no wrong. You know, but we've not invested in them. We've not invested in infrastructure for education. And education, human capital development, you know, just the lack of food. If the kids have nothing in their tummy, there's nothing that goes into their minds.
That's for sure.
You know, and so you're building a semi-literate generation that you expect to compete globally. Where we're going to in the next 20, 30 years, even now, the children in Mukuru Kwanjenga are not competing with children in Machakos. They'll be competing with kids in Japan and in the US. And so at that formative stage, even for their brain development and growth, they need nutritious meals.
It's essential. I'm concerned about the 6,000 or so children in our slum areas who are in these informal schools, right? And you've talked about there are many. These 6,000 of them,
they're not 6,000.
Do they need to wait?
Yeah, unfortunately, you know. I mean,
how long do they need to wait? Like
unless you get more
you've just mentioned the children in Mukuru. So there's a kitchen just down the road, opposite Mukuru Koruben. There's a kitchen. Is there no way this program can be rolled out to them?
So what we're doing,
they are very vulnerable.
They're very vulnerable, and I'm glad you feel it. You know, and you know, even part of that's why even during this summit, I'm talking to partners because part of our climate action plan is protection of vulnerable communities. You know, so no one was being fed. Now we were able to feed 250,000. As we speak today, 88,000 on board. By end of next week, 188,000 will be on board because the kitchens that are not completed are now being completed.
Getting online.
Where the problem at when the financial year stops, all payments stop in government, you have to load new if misusers. I found Nairobi had more than 2,000 if misusers. Imagine that. More than 2,000. Like someone who had been fired is somewhere in a cyber putting things on your internet banking. So I removed all the users because you don't need more than 200.
This country.
I'm telling you, someone who retired, ako kwake ushago but can still log in. So anyway, so despite that break now, we by third term, actually first term next year, I am seeing our enrollment moving from 250,000 to 350,000 in Nairobi, and we'll build those classes. But what I've said is the kitchens must run even during the holidays because these kids have nothing, and so that's why we need a lot of support, external support, and then now we can move. So now in this financial year, I'm building another 7 kitchens, so that we've covered all sub-counties. Our partners have gotten resources to build another 7 kitchens. The MPs who've committed to also build kitchens. So, for instance, in Embakasi Central, the MP is building. Some constituencies need more than one because there's real need.
Yep.
Nairobi is a place where you can die of hunger and your neighbor is having a party.
Urban poverty is
and people will not know about.
And there's no the lack of community.
Yep.
Yeah. How many people know their neighbors in your flats? You just see this guy in the parking. You can describe them. You don't know their names. We're competitive to a fault. When I was growing up in Nairobi, man, today you're in Mama Akinyi's, the next day you're in whose house? In fact, even people you'd be punished on behalf, someone would punish you on behalf of your parents, and they'll give a report in the evening.
All of you are bitten.
But there was a sense of community,
That's true. Accountability for Dishina County.
Accountability, of course, through the audit process, the Auditor General. But that's what I'm saying. I want a governance structure and people to contribute. I want PwC or KPMG or Deloitte or who to say what our contribution is that we'll come and audit this process. Because if there's one place any loss will not be tolerated, is in feeding our children.
Governor, could you please talk a little bit more about this governance structure that you want to put in place?
So the governance structure that we want to put in place, of course, so we already have an MOU with our implementing partner. So the implementing partner is a non-profit called Food for Education. And Food for Education are the ones who are undertaking a lot of the day-to-day management. They're just doing the management. We're putting in most of the money. They're doing the management of the kitchens, the quality control, making sure the containers are sealed, the vehicles are fueled, that supplies have come in. So they're doing that. Yeah. But we want to put, first of all, almost like a corporation for school feeding, that there's a CEO who's accountable to the people of Nairobi. A private entity is not necessarily accountable to the public.
Yep.
So within Nairobi, instead of just my director of education or of health, because it's under health, because of the nutritional aspect, we want that CEO
to be the anchor.
And a board. And this board, we want people who are trusted and have been seen to run things properly in this country to volunteer to sit on that board. That then we have the private sector involved. So that's the structure I'm thinking about. Those are the regulations we have that we're sending to the assembly. And so now when they run a campaign on TV saying this with this pay bill, or if you do *648#, you can be able to support a child, it is now with the public. Because Kenyans want to support it.
The face of Nairobi.
Yeah.
And I was talking about how it looks. Congestion in the city, still trash in the city, hawkers all over the place is still an issue, still a bone of contention. And the question is, okay, so what on earth is happening? What are you doing about that? Because it's visible.
Okay. Let me start with the issue of the environment. And garbage collection. So the garbage collection problem is initially became a commercial issue. It became business. What we used to have where the city council used to collect garbage, more or less stopped.
Yep.
Where we'd have what we used to call Camero. Camero would come, on Tuesday and on Thursday. We had even the metal bins written NCC that they'd give us. But now people realized, kuna biashara hapa. Let's get a contract. Then we take trash, take it to Dandora. Play around with the weighbridge and get paid billions. It's one of the biggest cost centers. What we decide to do is this, because number one, the manpower. Do you know the people who used to sweep when I was a child are still there, and they're very few, and they're old. You find a place like Embakasi East constituency, which is from Utawala, Mihango, Donholm, Lower Savannah, all of that area has 4 environmental officers. 4. Now, you've given a contractor the work to collect garbage, but you're measuring him not by how Embakasi East is clean, but by how many tons they're bringing into Dandora.
Yep.
Sometimes the truck even has stones. Sometimes they waterlog it. So just have changed that model. Number one, what we've done is to hire young people, and they should be getting their letters this week. 3,500 staff between 18 and 28 years old. So there's environmental staff who will know Mombasa Road from Standard Group to Tile and Carpet or to Nyayo. These are the people whose work is to maintain this place. On Saturday, I was along Mombasa Road with a huge team, and I put the photos out there. And I saw what consistency does. Do you know there's a section outside the Carrefour between Bunyala and the Nyeri roundabout, where even the road had become narrow because of the dust and the silt.
Yep.
And so we swept. Then we brought a truck and the road is wider. Now, if that is done every day, the city becomes clean. So the first thing we've done is to employ these young people. It's taken a process because, you have your public service board. They have to create the staff establishment. They have to advertise. These guys came to Nyeri Stadium, City Stadium, and so they're getting letters this week. I know at least 1,700 of them will get this week. Yeah, and we've provided the budget for that. Number 2 is to build our capacity as a county. So I've bought 24 refuse compactors, which are those cameros. The refuse compactors that you'll be seeing all around the city.
Not old trucks.
Brand new refuse compactors. Those ones are being fabricated by Isuzu.
That compress the taka inside.
Yeah. And now, of course, we'll have now the public participation drive or public awareness drive telling you, if you're in Isili, these are the days you're supposed to remove your trash. And I went there to just do an experiment. We cleaned the median at Isili, collected the trash, and I sat there. In less than 3 hours, it was full of trash. Because who throws that trash? So these guys pay CBOs, these vijanas take the trash and throw it there in the middle of the road. And so now we're reworking and telling them, listen, you guys, yes, you have to earn a living, but this is where you'll be collecting on this day. Put it out on this day, we'll collect. I've already bought 27 tippers that I flagged off, that have come to be part of the fleet. 10 backhoes, 120 skips. Now those are those big, huge bins that we used to have in our estates. So already we've gotten 120 of them. We'll do more. 4 backhoes and 3 dozers. So now there'll be that rhythm. We know this place is swept every day. It's cleaned every day. Actually, if you go to the CBD, it's always clean.
Where does this leave the private contractors?
So the private contractors who we've given specific duties are going to supplement this, not the other way around. Yeah. So what we've done for the first time is to restrict them to specific constituencies. So if it is Latiff and company, we tell you are Dagoretti South.
Yeah.
If you come with trash from Kiambu or from Embakasi East, we will not pay you. We will have a system, and we have already introduced, where the environmental officers, there's a ward environmental officer, there's a sub-county environmental officer, gives you a ticket on the ground with evidence that you've actually collected this trash from here and you've taken it to the dump site. I've added a new weighbridge that we're actually commissioning. I'm trying to do a route through which where you drive in and come out is different. So I don't pay you just for give me trash, but I pay you because the Great South is clean or because Langata is clean. So I know it's taken a while, but this is the only sustainable way to do it.
This is to Dandora. Dandora has also been another whole story by itself.
And I'm so happy about it.
Are we moving Dandora out of Dandora, the dump site out of Dandora?
Yeah.
You've recently contracted a company to do that, and then it was all over the news again. There's a whole issue about it.
So what we're doing is waste to energy project. This is something else that has been spoken about for years, and no one has gotten to the stage where we've gotten to where we've awarded. It's a PPP project. We've awarded China National Electric Engineering Company. They bid for it. They did the RFP, the expression of interest. Somebody went to challenge it at the public PPRA.
Yep.
We won that last week. And so we're moving ahead with that contract. It is going to produce 45 megawatts of energy onto the national grid that will be bought by Kenya Power, as the off-taker. There's so many interests. In fact, I've just been shown a headline saying Sakaja caught in 47 billion Dandora scandal. You have a situation in this city where when you don't get it, or you don't get a deal, you try and make it look bad. You know, so
you dirty it.
So how are we caught up and there's no shilling the county is spending?
So explain this PPP.
So it's a public-private partnership.
Okay.
This team is coming to set up the plant, the factory. Yeah. This plant will be set up in Dandora. The earlier plan was to do it at Ruai. Yeah. The idea was to move it to Ruai because of course, there was politics there. We were saying, this land was deputy president, then whatnot. Let's make it a dump site, etc. But I told them, listen, the people who have suffered for decades, respiratory illnesses, there's even a ward that is dedicated to people of Dandora.
Yep.
The ones should be the first beneficiaries of anything that comes out of it. You know, it can't be that you have suffered for all these years, then we now create the economic output of it goes to Ruai or goes somewhere else. So Dandora Power is going to be in Dandora. We have 20 acres next to the dump site. That is where we're going to be doing it. As we do that, then we rehabilitate the dump site. And it can even become a park. We've seen it being done in other parts of the world. There's still some of the gases in there are they say the garbage is inert, but some of it still has some calorific value that can add onto the plant. Number two, what we're doing is what we call a circular economy for waste management. And so in the markets, the sorting of the garbage, the material recovery facilities is what we're setting up in 17 of the in the sub-counties. So at what ends up at the factory is what is needed for production of the energy. On top of that, we're incorporating technology that we put in the chimneys and the pipes. Yeah, I wish I had the specific name that then reduces the pollution that comes out of it. So we are still in line with our climate action plan. It is still eco-friendly, and we produce that electricity. It's so exciting. This thing will be done in 2.5 years. You will see Dandora Power come into life.
This company,
yes,
the China National Electric Engineering Company.
Yeah.
They will invest.
They're investing the money
in this project.
They will build the factory.
All right. Operate it. For how many years?
I need to look at that at the award. It's probably 10 to 15 years. Yeah. And once they recoup their value, then they transfer it. Or we can say, since you're running it well, keep running it. But now the profits come to us because for now they are the ones who will be paid for the energy they put onto the grid. And for me, it's a fair deal, because this what we see as garbage to other people is gold.
Yeah.
They see the value in it. Now the guys who are going to work in that factory is our vijana, is our young people. It's those who, I've gone inside the dump site several times. No, in fact, they were saying we've never seen even a mayor inside here. I have spoken to those families. There's some people whose entire lives have depended on that. In fact, they're asking me, please return. There used to be this NAS, this National Air, the caterers, who used to bring their waste there. And their waste was so good that it was food for them. And say, please rudisha hawa watu. Now the contractor, I'm telling you, this is how people live in the city. And so they're excited about that project. And the reason why it had always been resisted was because they didn't trust that whoever's in charge is doing it for them.
If I may ask, this contract we have with this China Electrical Industrial Company, yes, I understand they are the ones who have invested, and it's a PPP.
Yeah.
So, from the onset, is there any percentage that the county will be getting in terms of profit? What I mean is this: you can graduate it. You start with 25%, and over the years, to the point where you actually invest it, where they are the ones who now have 10 and you have 90. Is it that sort of arrangement?
It's possible. You see the stages of award of a contract give space for negotiation.
Yes.
So right now it's at negotiation stage since it has passed the appeal was dismissed. And those are some of the things our technical team are exploring with them. Including, in addition to just doing the waste management when it has been brought to you, how do you participate in building the capacity of collection? From the estates and from where it is. That's part of the discussion. With them.
You said there was this matter of this most expensive real estate in East and Central Africa.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Please address that matter.
Do you know this country was, man? We need to write a book. That railway, what we call Green Park, it was owned by the railway pension team. And I knew that because when it was acquired, initially it was acquired by Kenha for an exit of the expressway.
They acquired it from the pension, the pension scheme.
Yes.
The place where the railway club was.
Yes, where the railway club was. It was owned by the railway pension scheme.
The ground where Mwamba Rugby Club.
Where Mwamba RFC was there. Then of course
I had to go there.
All the Mwamba, and they're asking me to return it. No, and of course all the Luya Matangas would be done at the club. So I was a frequent visitor. But anyway, that's why it was acquired. And I remember because I was the chair of Labour in the Senate, and Rogers Washika and the team came saying, no, we've not gotten it. The evaluation they had done through, I think, is it KPMG or who, was at 13 billion. But government, of course, NLC valued it at 7 billion. And then somewhere in the middle, the plan for an exit stops.
For the expressway?
For the expressway. And they say, who else needs this land?
Oh dear.
And so it was, by the way, Nairobi Metropolitan Services can take it for a bus stop. They did trials, they all failed. Because of, first of all, for local commuters, it can't work. Just crossing Uru Highway, once you have dropped there, the hordes of people crossing, the road will be impassable unless you do a tunnel, and the cost of that infrastructure doesn't make sense at all. Either way, where we want to do our park and ride, or where you're dropped off, should be a bit outside town, where you're dropped off and there's a shuttle that now comes in, or even a tram that comes into town. That is what our design is. So what we've said, what value can we derive from it? We have designed, drum roll, we've designed the Nairobi Convention Center, where we have no performance venues, first of all, or proper convention. Where can you hold 10,000 people? If Jay-Z came to perform in Nairobi, where would you go to?
Sorry.
Who's Jay-Z? Or let me say...
Who is Jay-Z?
The one of Beyonce.
Beyonce's husband.
Oh, Beyonce.
The one of Beyonce.
No, Beyonce, I know.
Yeah. Or even more seriously, if like this climate summit, MICE, which is meetings, incentives, conventions, is a huge potential in Kamana for this country.
Yeah.
Because Nairobi is strategically located. 5 hours from Dubai, you're in Nairobi. 8 hours from London. 13 from New York. And so what we're creating is an ecosystem of meeting venues that hold huge capacity, a hotel or two there that are already designed, and people want to come and do it PPP. So imagine this. Because now I've given approval to Kenha to do an exit of the expressway there as well. So we'll have the exit into CBD right there at Green Park. It was designed in such a way that one line feeds into the convention center, another one goes into Haile Selassie, Kenyatta Avenue. Okay. Yeah? So you've landed at the airport. In 10 minutes, you're in your hotel room. If you feel like golfing, you just cross the road, you have the Railway Golf Club. Or you can take a walk in the new Uhuru Park. Or it will attract so much to this country. So much. When I was away for a while, and when I landed, I decided not to call my driver or anything. So I got into an Uber. So when I'm in this Uber going home, this guy says, mambo ni noma, but kuna mikutano zinakuja mingi sana. I'm like, what do you mean? I says, forget those big ones, that is UN, whatnot. He's saying he's seeing people are coming back to the city, to Nairobi. They're seeing Nairobi as a destination. The weather is good, the location is good. We're the center of the world.
Yeah.
But Kigali had started taking that away from us. With their convention center. Yep. The Kigali Convention Center. And the guy who helped them get that is my friend Masai Ujiri, who's the president of the Toronto Raptors. He told me, Saks, we wanted to do it in Nairobi, but you guys weren't responsive. We meet your guys, we feel, hey, VP Nini, let's do it, but there's no consistency. There's no follow-up, there's no discipline. And so once we do it, and imagine how we partner with KQ, our national carrier, and tell them, listen, bring guys to conferences. Let's give them an offer. If you're in this class or if you're coming for this conference, as soon as you land, you in 10 minutes you're out of the airport. Your bags will follow you to that hotel. We tag them. We give you an experience. We even drive you maybe even through the park. We have such an offering that no other city in the world has. We are the only city with a national park in the capital, and in the background you're seeing the skyline of the city. And then we'll have the Bomas Convention Center as well, that the national government is doing. We still have KCC. We can do for you a city tour. So that is where we're thinking. I think it's more futuristic. It creates more value from that 13 billion piece of land than a bus stop that will not work.
Public participation on this?
public participation will go on. You know, we've just conceptualized it, and we want to give it to the people.
So, at what stage shall people come and give you feedback on this?
I think once we present it to the assembly. Yeah. So now public participation will be conducted by the county assembly of the city. We are seeing different proposals. We're seeing, do we do it as a straight PPP or as a privately initiated PPP, which is a shorter route? Because also you don't want to take another 2 years just trying to contract this thing. You know, we need things to work. Lazima work. We do chap. There are guys who've offered. They've done designs. They said, look, we'll run this thing for you for this number of years, or we put our money to build it. We're looking at what is the best value for the people of Nairobi. But it's really exciting. You know, what can come out of it as a city.
Even as you look at this, what's still your Achilles heel in the city? What's the thing that keeps you up at night that you're thinking, I wish I could get rid of this problem?
It's not even getting rid of. It's building the culture of ownership by the citizens. That this is our city. We own it. You know, if you look at a chama that is being set up, or if there's an estate committee that you want to do a harambe for 100,000 shillings, the standards are high. Say, oh, let Baba Kamau be the treasurer. No. Mama Shiro is better. You know the standards because they own it. But when it comes to your 42 billion, people say, that is Sakaja's work. You know, I was in Kahawa the other day, and I find this lady who has a stall. She's selling vegetables, and she asks me, mbona hapa ni chafu? So I looked at her. Like, surely, ma'am, nani ametupa hii mboga? This mboga looks like what you're selling. Yeah. Unless we take also responsibility and move from just haki yetu to wajibu wetu. You know, if everyone swept outside their house, the world would be clean. So let me provide for you the beans, which I'm providing. Let me provide for you a schedule, but take care of it. So now what I've told my MCs to do in the finance bill is put a penalty. If outside your business, outside your home, there is this level of, and we can tell this is from what you're doing. You know, a guy doing sugarcane, just cutting, chopping it to the ground. You'll have to pay a very serious. Waiting for me to pick it up. You're in traffic, you throw a bottle out. You throw a banana out. So for me, it is the softer vibe of who we are, how we see our city. I am Nairobi. You know, that for me is the biggest thing. Because once you sort out the software,
Sakaja, you visited people's homes. Did you find dirty homes?
Inside their homes, no.
Exactly.
People take care of their homes.
What that lady was asking you is, where is the bin?
No, there have bins. In fact, that particular market has a skip. But she's saying, same thing happened, Toi. The time when there was a fire, I remember going, the first part of Toi, there's the drainage. Ni chafu, it is full of what they're selling. This person asks me, I tell them, you guys, first of all, you can see you've encroached on the road. I have not sent my guys to evict you. Sijawaskuma, sijawapiga. Don't you think you can at least even just collect this? You know, you go to Ngong Road, the guys who are doing furniture, they had encroached the entire walkway. I just took a walk one day and asked them, now my friend, so you're here, you're selling. Have I sent guys to collect rates from you? Have I sent guys to evict you because I know you're earning a living? Now this walkway that was done using your money, do you think it is fair when you block it with your furniture? To date, those guys have moved back without any further enforcement. So just building that story, just letting people know, and I think you guys can help us. For to know, I am Nairobi. Nairobi is us. There's no one else who's going to come solve it. There's no magic wand. There's no button I'll press that will change the city. Yeah. And I love what citizens have done. Some of the guys we've caught, and then they have cases in court stealing drugs. It is because of the public finding a way to be able to talk to us, saying there's a syndicate that puts the dawa you've brought into an ambulance. The ambulance goes to a facility. There's this chemist that is buying our stuff. There is this, and slowly we're unlocking it. So my appeal is a partnership with the people of Nairobi. You know, we'll provide the platform through which you can engage with us. Let's work together. I love the groups. You know, I'm in the groups for Kilimani. I see what they're doing. I'm in groups for, Nyayo Estate, whatnot. I see what community can be able to do. Our work is to facilitate. I'm not saying take the work. I'm not shucking off responsibility. But I'm saying the only way to achieve it is collectively.
Working together.
If you go to the States, New York, I love New York. It's such a mantra that no matter who the mayor is, the people have pride in their city. They own the city. So for me, that is the biggest thing.
The people of Kileleshwa, Kilimani and other areas, and all the neighborhoods in Nairobi have been complaining about noisy bars.
They've been complaining about it, but who goes to those bars? So still those people. Yeah. But what happens is that you go to a bar in another neighborhood. Yeah. And so you live in Runda, you will come to Kileleshwa, party. If someone wants to put a bar in Runda, you will resist. Because we're not thinking of the next person. And so when I started that onslaught on them, I realized there were certain gaps that we're now sorting out within our laws. Because environmental enforcement needs to be done in a certain way. I recently issued a directive saying we will not do night raids anymore. Because, these night raids have created rent-seeking opportunities. You go to a bar, guys are drunk, someone is scampering for safety, they break their leg, drunkard person now fights my officers. Nothing good comes out of that environment. You find some officers have taken the alcohol, they confiscate it, and then now you have to pay 200 Gs. The DJ is arrested. The DJ has made no mistake. We have no contact with the DJ. The DJ is playing. And probably they assume this place, for it to have been licensed, they have done their soundproofing and they're allowed. So we're doing public participation, and we're about to conclude. One, on the zoning of areas that can have nightclubs. Yeah? The zoning of those areas. So we're talking about CBD, some parts of Westland, some parts of industrial area, some shopping centers, that can have a nightclub, but which still need to be soundproofed. Number two, where can you have a bar in a restaurant? And if it's a bar in a restaurant, what time does it close? Of course, we like neighborhood pubs, where you can go have one in the evening or two, talk with your friends. It's not a disco, it's just a place you'll have a beer or two or
cultural establishment.
Yeah, and then I like that. And then go home, and it closes at 11 or at midnight. We'll allow that. But I've said what we will do for enforcement of noise. We come, the Environmental Management MCA Act has the levels of noise. We measure the decibels. We come the next day, we measure. We give you an enforcement notice. We will tell you that this thing you have gone beyond. We will enforce during the day. We'll come close your bar during the day. You will not have clients being hurt, being asked for bribes, being bungled into our trucks. We'll just come. Tomorrow you'll go to your club, you'll find it's not there. Because we can't, kids cannot do homework because we're babas enjoying downstairs.
So how long do we give this whole process?
It's ongoing. It's ongoing. The publishing of those areas, I approved it in cabinet last week. Yeah, there had been an omission of Eastlands and Eastern Bypass and Kangundo Road. Yeah. So I said amend that. So I passed it in cabinet. It is going to be in the papers. People can speak to us on email and give their suggestions. But so the zoning, just for the zoning.
So this zoning is throughout the county?
Throughout the county.
Throughout the county.
Yeah.
Is it only for cultural establishments, or is it also for other stations and other businesses that one sees mushrooming?
No, that was the different process I spoke about earlier.
Yes.
For the development control and land use that is now with the county assembly.
Yes.
This is just for cultural establishments. And I like how you call it.
So by December, Governor, by December,
so by December,
have order in this?
We should have order, and we want residents to actually partner with us. Do you know, there's a friend of mine, he became my friend later.
What was he before he became?
No, I didn't know him. Okay. But this guy lives in Kilimani, next to an establishment that I closed, for a while until they
soundproofed the establishment.
Now this guy was always on my inbox, telling me, my friend, I can't sleep, my kids can't sleep, I'm going crazy, mental health, whatnot. And so I took guys to check it out. And I said, actually, this place, it's terrible and they have complete impunity.
Yeah.
I closed it down. When I closed it down for them to comply, the first phone call I get is from a politician, senior politician, saying, why are you doing this for the bar? The owner of the bar is from my constituency. Why are you picking on our people? By coincidence, I said, please hold. I called this guy, asked him, where are you from, by the way? He's from that constituency, the complainant. So I said, can I just connect you guys on this call? Because the person who's being affected, I said, we don't look at things that way. It's not about tribe. It's not about businesses of this community or that community. It's decency.
Yeah.
Some of these establishments, leave alone the music, the kind of conversation that is happening at 1 a.m. is not stuff you want your kids to hear or to be part of or to see. There's another side of town where they're doing something called Aluta, where in the morning now the disco starts again. It's like a relay. Now there's another DJ who comes.
At 8 in the morning.
This place is a residential area. People are going to church. You've seen videos of girls dancing naked on bonnets of vehicles. Even just decency. The moral fiber of society. Some things we do. I mean, we can't legislate on morality. But if you want to do it in a place where you people who want to do that, mujifungie huko, don't disturb anybody else. The reason why people are not in your club, they're at home, is because they want to be at home to sleep. So, the same way you're not being forced to make people sleep in your bar, don't make people force them to dance in in their houses. And I'll give you a final example. There's one establishment that is next to a mental institution, a rehab. Yeah, a place where people have gone, they have mental health issues, you're recovering. Possibly part of what you're recovering from is substance addiction, substance abuse. So you're there, you're recovering, you're on day 60. In the middle of the night, you're just hearing someone saying, wainame ama wainuke ama wainame. Now,
madness.
You'll go back to that, you lose all the progress you've made. So we just need order.
Boroughs.
Yes. Boroughs, it's so exciting. So the reason why we wanted to set up and why we're setting up Boroughs is to bring services closer to the people and to have finer decision making. The issues of Kayole.
Essentially
decentralizing it further. It's another level of devolution. I mean, it's not lower than the ward, but it concentrates your issues. And so we were done with the legislative framework for it. We're using the County Government Act. We're creating 5 boroughs: Nairobi North, East, West, South, and Central. And again, publishing it for people to say Westlands and Roysambu should we be together, or Westlands and Kangware, I mean, and Agoreti North. Just that is a process that is now going on. We've already budgeted for the borough headquarters, so that you don't have to come to City Hall. Of course, payments and everything is digitized, but even for service, to sort out a land matter, to sort out an issue with your road, to talk about drainage. If you're in Nairobi East, which is Ruai, the Dandoras, etc., go sort it out there. And you'll have officers who have the capacity, competence, and authority to solve things there. Now, what else we want to introduce is now borough boards. So that in the borough, we get all the resident associations that are within that borough to come together and have representation, such that we have participatory budget. So we say, okay, there's the budget for things that cut across. City Stadium is for everyone. The hospitals are for everyone, whatnot. But you guys here, let's say we have 50 million shillings. What would you like? What intervention would you like the county to do for you? In some areas, they'll say, we want a public swimming pool. In another area, they'll say, actually, why don't you do sheds for our border people? So I'm really excited. We've made progress. We've put it now. And as you said, this is now my first budget. So we've put it in our budget. By the end of this year, what I want to see, this is showing you Sakaja at 1. When I visualize Sakaja at 2, I want now to see that the boroughs are fully operational. The headquarters have been set up. In some places, it's actually just completing stalled projects. Like if you look at Kibra, Al Joseph Kangethe grounds, there was a huge, administration block and the social facility that got stuck during Kidaro's time. No one has thought about it again. We've revived that one. That one can be a borough headquarter for that area. So that is where we are on the boroughs. We've already advertised for borough managers. And shortlisting is being done. So you have your sub-county administrators, you have your ward admins. So the sub-county administrators will now be reporting to a borough manager.
Okay.
At that level. And the borough manager now reports to what we're calling the city manager. The city manager is a position I want the deputy governor to be able to run. So the deputy governor sits with these 5 administrators. The person who is thinking about the roads in Ngomongo should also not be worrying about the roads in Karen. Surely. The issues are very different. The person who is accountable, and that's why things used to, fall apart. Because you go to Westlands and you call the environmental guy and say, why is there a problem in Westlands market? Why haven't you sorted this out? Say, I'm sorry, sir. I'm in Mbakasi. Or no, I'm sorting out something in Langata. And at that level. So you need somebody at that level of leadership. It's what we call single-threaded leadership. One of the styles that Amazon has used and become biggest company in the world. That you have somebody senior enough to have the authority to run a team and to make decisions, but whose focus is in one specific small area. That segment of just these 3 constituencies.
And they're answerable for only what's happening.
They're answerable only for there.
Okay.
Kama hakuna maji, ni hapo anaanza. We've made progress on water. Before you ask, We've made progress on water.
As we conclude.
Nairobi, you remember I told you during the debate, Nairobi has not developed new sources of water since 1997. And the 1997 target was for a population of 2 million people. So we have had 4 water sources. 1907, Kikuyu Springs, 1% of our water. Then 1938, again the colonial government, they did Ruiru. Then 1956, we did Sasumwa. Finally Ndakaine. So Nairobi needs 850 million liters a day, but we only have 525. Fortunately, one of the projects that is nearing completion, and by December should be done, is a Northern Collector Tunnel. It was stuck. We unlocked it. I went to the president. He helped me get NLC to give compensation for the guys on the wayleave. They've been compensated. The pipes are coming. That will give us 140 million liters of water. Number 2, what have I been able to do? And I thank God for that. We've been able to get support from the Koreans of 100 million euros. The 100 million euros, which they're going to loan to Nairobi Water Company, which is a company under us, is going to help us do Northern Collector 2. Northern Collector 2 is going to add another 180 million liters of water. Meaning, by 2027, the gap will probably be just 10% as we even explore the next source. So on water, I'm really confident. There's a photo going around about the state of pipes.
Yeah.
And I was able just to put it on Google search. It's a fake photo. That photo is Thailand. You know,
so it's not a Nairobi photo.
No, it's not a Nairobi photo. My phone has gone. It's not a Nairobi photo. Actually, if you Google that photo, it will show you where it has been. Our pipes are not like that, but we need to really rehabilitate and overhaul a lot of the systems. We're now moving into smart metering. We're concreting some of the infrastructure. That's why there's never been water in Langata, because of the illegal connections in Kibra. And so we're working with what we call the water police set up in the national government. And so areas that were getting it once will now get thrice. Areas that are getting thrice will be able to get 4 times, as we look at even water harvesting, etc. I know we're pressed for time.
Completely. Governor, we thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks. And please call me again.
Please come again.
There's a lot to talk about. We're not even taking calls.
Yeah. Sakaja Arthur Johnson is the governor of City County of Nairobi. He's been our guest for the last 2 hours, accounting for his last 1 year in office.
Yes.
Come every quarter.
Okay.
You need an accountability.
Yes. Can we do that?
Yes.
Every quarter. I'm happy.
And the guy you dealt with during the debates is a guy called Mark Masai.
Oh, sorry, it was Mark.
Thank you very much. Keep it here for more conversations. Leo Baga is here with the news.
You've been on my mind.
Because the government was focused in ensuring that talent is developed in the right way through projects such as the Talanta Hela program.
Kenya's top export to the world is not coffee, is not tea, is not tourism. Kenya's number 1 export to the world is our great sportsmen and women. And doping places that at a risk. And that is why we have declared zero tolerance to doping, all out war against doping, together with World Athletics, World Anti-Doping Agency, Athletics Integrity Unit. We have entered an undertaking to wage war by all means. And we have invested 700 million shillings per year for 5 years. Total 3.5 billion shillings to finance this war.
Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya Chairman Wesley Korir, on his part, has emphasized the need to fight the use of such drugs as they mess up the careers of promising athletes.
Asante Bwana Namwamba kwa kunipa niwe chairman wa multitask ya anti-doping hapa Kenya, and I promise you, as your chairman of that steering committee, I'm going to make sure doping is a thing of the past in this country. We are going to whip people, and I want to put a warning to all those people who are working to dope our athletes. Wesley Korir is coming for you. I will come for you wherever you are to make sure that this menace of doping is over in this country.
Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja says that the project that's been distributing food to schools and vulnerable families through the Dishina County is funded by private organizations in collaboration with the government of his county. In an interview on Spice FM's Situation Room, Sakaja said that the project will go a long way in increasing school attendance.
So we already have an MOU with our implementing partner. So the implementing partner is a non-profit called Food for Education, and Food for Education are the ones who are undertaking a lot of the day-to-day management. They're just doing the management. We're putting in most of the money. They're doing the management of the kitchens, the quality control, making sure the containers are sealed, the vehicles are fueled, that supplies have come in. So they're doing that.
Shock and grief has engulfed the outskirts of Kericho town after the decomposing body of a middle-aged man was discovered hanging from a tree in a thicket near Kisumu Road junction along Kericho-Kisumu Highway. Police say the man is suspected to have hanged himself on the tree. The officer, however, said post-mortem would be conducted on the body so as to establish the exact cause of his death. And in the international scene, an independent inquiry has found no evidence that South Africa supplied weapons to Russia. President Cyril Ramaphosa says the panel rejected claims made by the US ambassador to South Africa that a Russian ship was loaded with ammunition and arms in Cape Town last December. The allegations had raised questions over the country's professed neutrality in the war with Ukraine. Mr. Ramaphosa said it had damaged the nation's currency and reputation. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, much better on the Thika Superhighway this morning. Just a little bit of traffic coming towards the Pangani underpass, and it's coming to an end on Kiambu Road right about now. Limuru Road feeding off towards Muthaiga. Just a little bit busy as you're coming then off Kitisuru, this whole area, Roslyn, etc., etc. Right? Are you coming off of Uhuru Highway? This is where... What? It's crazy. Inbound and outbound traffic. There's something going on right there. So we're looking at between Langata Road, Aerodrome, and then touching on the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, out towards Haile Selassie, and then further ahead towards Chiromo. It's Monday morning traffic, perhaps. Quite a number of folks there, and it's snaking along very slowly. Coming off of Cabanas, then towards the North Airport Road, touching on the Outer Ring Junction. That doesn't look too bad right about now. The pain point is going to be Uhuru Highway this morning. Very slow, bumper to bumper. We'll keep an eye on that. Let us know what's going on where you are. If you're on Uhuru Highway, you're just going to have to give a little bit of patience. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter as we keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It's 7 minutes after 9. The conversation continues. Thank you very much for all the comments and questions. Yes. I see somebody asking, why didn't you ask our questions? Actually, what we're doing is looking at all the questions and consolidating them and throwing them at the governor. And yes, we will push to be having quarterly accountability forums with the governor of Nairobi City County so that we have these conversations with him. We continue. Abdullahi Alas is a columnist, a governance and policy analyst who's been on this show before. He is again on the show. The last time we mentioned him was when he was sharing with us the progress of what he's doing. Okoh, up north in Mandera, where you are a farmer. You are doing big things.
A proud one. Proud farmer.
Uliona picha ya tikiti maji. Uliona, what do you call Dania in Swahili?
It's Dania.
Should ask what Dania is called in English.
Dania is an Indian word. So what's it called in Swahili?
It's called Dania.
Okay.
It's coriander.
Hiyo ni kizungu.
So you said Kiswahili?
No, I'm the one who asked kizungu, and coriander is okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Coriander is what is Dania. Yes. I don't know the Kiswahili word.
Nyanya, na haya mambo na kadhalika. Vitunguu,
kukumba,
mahindi, maharagwe ile ndogo.
Maharagwe ndogo. Which ones are those ones?
I don't know what you call them. Hii maharagwe ndogo, not piece. Piece is a bit bigger. It's smaller than piece.
Kamende. or something.
No, which one? The very small one.
Yeah, the very small ones. Not the green ones.
Not green gram.
The blue, the brown.
Commandes.
Yes.
I know the ones you're talking about. You're growing those ones?
Yes, we've grown. We are eating them.
They're very good.
So after I left, we did a farming of 10 acres. Or is it hectares? Then 4 we
10
did.
acres and 10 hectares are different.
Very
boss.
different.
Yes.
Which
Well,
one?
you are
Hectares.
10 hectares, multiply by 4 ndio ufike huko.
Yeah, so
ni
hiyo
shamba
ya chini.
kubwa.
Si ya juu.
Oh, 10 acres.
Siku hizi Ruto anasema watu wataenda binguni. Hatutaki kwenda binguni na hectares. So we did watermelon and maize on one section, and maize and beans and tomatoes, the small ones and the big ones. Then we did barbaroni, dania.
The barbaroni. What is barbaroni?
Barbaroni is the green, I don't know what you call in agriculture.
Hoho.
Sort of, yes. Then we hizo zote. Now we
Bele hoho na the barbaroni.
yes. And we are now selling. Dad is now in charge of the farm. We have a helper helping him. He's telling me he's getting supplies, orders for supply of tomatoes.
Now he's selling.
Now he's selling. We have harvested the maize. About the first 25 bags have been brought home. We're waiting for another 20 bags. So
this agriculture was happening. You know what's big about this? Is it was happening at the height of the drought.
yes,
Right?
yes.
This ought to be the subject of our discussion here. You know why? Yeah? Every time we talk about arable and non-arable parts of the country,
Yes.
and here we're talking about a region that people just lambast and say,
This is Mandera. That is growing all these things
non-arable,
that we're talking
semi-arid,
about.
the works. And here, a completely different story.
Yes.
Which means what our brother Abdullah is doing here was always possible.
Yes.
It required someone with a mind to decide, actually, you know something, I'm going to do this.
What was the source of your water?
The river.
The river. Which river?
River.
Was the river there before?
Is it a permanent
It
river?
has been there in the last 100 years.
It's a permanent river.
Yes.
Not
No,
seasonal.
it's seasonal, but apart from 2-3 months, it's running most of the year.
So the rain that came
Yes.
boosted the river.
Boost, it
obviously.
always does, and it runs for like 6-7 months. It dries for like 3 months and then comes back again.
Comes back.
Yes.
It's
Now
constantly
let me say this as we go to other topics. Agriculture in northern Kenya is an venture that the government of Kenya has neglected from 1960, deliberately to marginalize the people of the north. Now we are going to discuss the insecurity, terrorism, and all this. Now, all these are culmination by the failure of the state to invest in the region. Now, Kindiki was, the other day, went there with choppers. He goes there with choppers. There is no a single Kenyan leader who can travel by road. I travel by road. I came by road.
From where to where?
From Mandera to Nairobi. Okay? It is 4 hours from Mandera to Wajir. 4 hours.
How many kilometers?
Close to 345. Okay?
Yeah.
It is another.
What's the road like? Just so that we understand.
Well, it's like 1.5 hours stomached between Elwak and Ramu.
Yes.
The rest is rough and maram.
Okay.
Now, from Wajir to Garissa is another 5 hours.
What's the distance?
The distance is about 200 something, 270, 260 around there.
It's a shorter distance, but it takes longer.
It takes longer.
Because of the state of
You
the road?
travel at 20 kilometers per hour, 15 kilometers per hour.
Because of the road.
The road is so bad, and you can't travel with every car. The car I'm driving is Nissan Safari old model, 209.
The old
You see? So I had to make sure I put all what it needs. It's a very good car. And then from Madogashe to Garissa to Nairobi is tarmacked.
Yeah.
Now, where there is tarmacked, which is around 127 kilometers, you take less than an hour because you're driving at 130, 120. There is no traffic. Now, I was with my family because we came to renew our passports. So I came to Garissa at around 11 p.m. During the night. When I left Ramu at around 10 a.m., I came to Wajir at around 2:30. So we took a break, went to my sister's house, we took shower, stayed because I had my kids. We left Wajir at 7 a.m. And I was in Garissa at about 11:45 p.m.
Took a whole day.
Yes.
It's not even 5 hours.
I'm not done. Then from there, we took another break of about 3 hours.
In Garissa.
So I traveled from Garissa at 3 a.m. And came to Nairobi at 7:30 a.m.
3
a.m. to 7:30 a.m.
4 hours.
You're here.
And I'm here.
But the other one has taken you from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Yes, because of the road. Now, the same is affecting the insecurity we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Because if there is an attack in, let's say, Elwak or Ramo, which is 300 kilometers from Wajir, we have an airport in Wajir. So if they want to travel by road, they can't because the road are rough.
Yeah.
So they can be IED'd. You see? So if Kenyatta and Moi thought of developing roads in that place, we will not have these issues today. Issues of insecurity. Africa, about 33 countries in Africa are dealing with terrorism and violence extremism. Kenya is not appearing even in the top 15. We are having these issues because we are neighboring Somalia.
Yeah.
But for recruitment of terror groups, Kenya, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Burundi are among the countries that where these people get recruits.
Source markets.
Yes. Coming back to agriculture now. What I did was deliberate. One, for the last 20 years, either going to school, marrying, having babies, I've not been staying with my parents for over a month. This time I decided I'm going to stay with my parents for 6 months after 20 years. And I'm going to do something that is going to make them realize they don't need me to send them 10,000 from Nairobi. We will invest in these farms. I will make it my responsibility to be there for the first month. What happens in the first month? What happens in the first month is the cultivation of the land. When you prepare that, then you're looking for the seeds. The maize I planted is not from Mandera. It's the graded maize called Tosheka. It's normally provided by the Ministry of Agriculture. But if you're not enough, because they can at most give you 4 kgs because of seeds, because of the numbers of farmers in the county.
Okay.
And it's provided for by the county government of Mandera.
It's called Tosheka.
Yes, it's called Tosheka.
Tosheka na hiyo nimekupatia.
Yes. So now what happens is that after you get the seeds, now you start planting. It's supposed to be like 90 centimeters apart. Majority of the farmers don't do that. They just pump the maize. So by the time it grows in a jichoma,
yeah, it's too
you
close.
see, once you plant it, then the next day you are there because you don't want the birds to remove the seeds from the ground. They're there. So hata huko. So me and dad will go to the farm at 6 a.m. The helper will sleep. We will leave the farm at around 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. in the evening. The whole day we are with him in the farm. Once they grow germinate again, for about a week, we have bamboos and monkeys again coming. So you are there. Now, when it germinates to a certain level, about 30, 40 centimeters, you now start dealing with pesticide and insects and this and that. So you need to have the tank and you start spraying. Once it reaches certain level again, you need water because we have planted with rain fed.
Yeah.
So now it's drying up. Now an engine is in the farm. Like the 6 hectares, it takes about 6 hours. That will take about 5 liters of diesel. You do that. You see, up before you harvest,
you have put in so
there is
much.
a lot of timing and discipline that you're there supervising the guys who help you with the planting, with the watering. So there are a lot of activities. Northeastern Kenya, if the government of Kenyatta, Moi and Kibaki invested only between Wajir and Habaswein, that land is enough to feed the whole country.
Let me ask you, because I think this is very important what you're saying right now, that a lot of the things that we see, because we had conversations about security, and one thing that has come out very clearly is that if these areas are developed, and whether we're talking about road infrastructure, whether we're talking about other things, if these areas are developed, you see a lot of things now crashing down. You see the insecurity issue falling apart. You will see this thing that we're talking about, hunger all the time, also falling apart. So give us an example. I mean, obviously, the one that you've given is one. But here you're saying that you spent these 6 months, the first month doing this hard work. and you see the results of what it is that you have done.
Yes.
Give us an example where the opposite happens, whereby people are going hungry, the roads are causing problems, so that we can see, because we often want to see the difference between the two for you to understand just how important what you're saying.
The next farm belongs to the neighboring farm of the one I planted belongs to my dad's elder brother. He got nothing.
Yeah.
He got nothing. He only
did
got
not
some.
harvest.
He did not even have. There's nothing much to have. He planted.
There was nothing that germinated.
It did, but down by middle there was not enough water. There was no, insects spraying. There was no, because I took amino acid from, folics to help grow. So I've invested. Now, most of the farmers, and both Ministry of Agriculture, Linturi is talking about fertilizer. Almost the 7 counties in northern Kenya have received not one bag of fertilizer. So I don't know who he does supply. In these farms, what you need is investment in production and not service providing departments. If you look at the budget of Mandera County, I have it in my car. 1.4 billion, 1.2 to 1.4 goes to health. That's a service providing department.
Yeah.
1.2 goes to water. But agriculture gets 200 million as a budget, including the current expenditure. And 600 million conditional grants.
So in total 800.
In total 800. Now, the current governor came to power in August last year. So he's in office for 1 year. The first 4 or 5 months he has been distributing food. And in the last 10 years, Mandera has been distributing food.
Yeah.
But the first year that we invested like 500 million in agriculture, the food we produced in Mandera, when there was drought, the government bought from the farmers.
From the local farmers.
From the locals. And we give food to our people that we produced. Now, why are they investing in service departments? In economics, the last 2, 3, I'm not an economist, but I read economics. And the basics is, what are you producing? Who is producing? And how are you producing? So, who is producing what? Abdullahi Alas is producing food. For whom? For the markets. I was supplying the hotels in Mandera with sukuma, with tomatoes, with danias, with mahindi mbichi. What do we call it? Tunapika, either roasted or boiled or that one.
Green maize.
Now, if you look at the profit we are making now, is that 1 kg will cost you like 60 shillings in Mandera. A bag of 50 kgs will cost you 3,000. Is it? Now, which means if 50 kgs is 3,000, a kg is 60 shillings. But 1 corn is 50 bob. And it takes more than 10 or 15 corns to generate 1 kg. So 15 corns times 50 bob is how much? 750. So when you now measure the corns, it's 1 kg, it's 750. When you put it in a sack, it's 60. So which one will you prefer? We prefer the one for 50. So we sell it when it's raw. We don't even wait to germinate, to dry. You see? So in a week, you go to a hotel, you get 15K. You go to another hotel, you get another 10K. What I did is I also diversified my market. I went to the market. Siku ati naogopa. Nilikuwa nabeba hizi mahindi kwa Nissan Patrol nikienda Mandera. Najaza, naenda kwa hii hoteli, naenda kwa military, naenda kwa police, naenda kwa traffic, naenda kwa garages.
Chukua mahindi.
Wakenya wako huko, Waluya, Wakamba, Wajaluo, wako. Na wapelekea garage wako because tunajiona na hawa. Because I want to bring in the issue of the TSC, teachers complain here, vis-a-vis what's happening on the ground. Now, when they see me going to the market with a car, Nissan Patrol at the back full of maize. Wanasema huyu jamaa amechizi. Yet I'm doing business. So I went to the market and talked to the mamambogos. I told them, I am producing this. What is the market rate for a kg of sukuma or a kg of nyanya? Like tomato, the ones from other parts is 120, 100 per kg. I tell her now, look, mine is this one. Is it good? Yes. Give me 80. You take the 20. Sell it. Put it in the market. Every day I'll bring you like 15, 20 kgs. Because we'll supply in days.
Bulk.
You don't in bulk.
Yeah.
So you have 5 mothers selling 2 jergens of nyanya every day for you. So she calls you every evening. For every jergen she gets you 800, that's 1,600.
Yeah.
Now 1,600 times 10 mothers.
16,000.
16,000 plus 15,000 plus 14,000 from the hotels.
29.
So that is pocketing.
Pesa.
Pesa iko.
He doesn't need the 10K from you every
You
month.
don't. He
And
doesn't.
all you need, from what you're saying,
Yes.
is to support at the at that level of infrastructure, sort out the roads, and let's have a proper form of water.
Before
for
even
irrigation.
that,
Is
my
what
dear,
you're saying?
before even that, you need someone who is thinking. The thing starts with the thinking. Before even you need to have before you have a plan, you need to think.
Indeed.
Does the county government of Mandera have people who sit somewhere and just think?
Do they?
They don't. Because they're investing 200
million
in agriculture vis-a-vis.
Are there agricultural extension officers in Mandera?
Yes, the guy in Ramu, my constituency, is a Mukamba from Kitui. He's there. I took him to my farm.
So what does he do normally?
He doesn't do nothing because his own motorbike has no fuel.
He is not capacitated.
He's not. Because they do not understand that agriculture relies on extension services. You need to train people to produce food.
Yeah.
You and I are sitting here because we have been taken to school. If you are not taken to school, maybe you'll be having kettles or cows where you came from. What makes us come here is the schooling and the research and the exposure and the reading we did. Now, my dad did not have the latitude to have that. He dropped out of school at class 4. He has been raising us. Now he's happy. When there is nothing more comforting or more dignifying when your dad appreciates you and says you are blessed. You came at the right time. You see. And now he's overwhelmed with orders. He's overwhelmed. I told him, Dad, deal with the mess now. I produce everything. That's how I deal with it. Minimenda. I have to do other things in life. You see. So Mandera County Government, Wajir County Government, Garissa County Government can come together. And I said when I was here in March, that our budgets are shy of like 1 trillion Kenya shillings, those 3 counties. Muranga, Irungu Kangata is investing 1 billion in agriculture. Where is Muranga? Muranga is just here. With all these rains, he is investing 1 B. Mandera was supposed to be investing 2 billion. Garissa was supposed to be investing another 1 billion or 2 billion.
You only do 200 million.
They will have sat with the national government, bring a scheme, sit with World Bank, African Development Bank, the European guys, and look for a pool of resources. And then invest in 1 million acres in the country, in northern Kenya. Northern Kenya is the second biggest region in this country.
There's sufficient water, there's sufficient land.
A lot.
And the weather is conducive.
Very, very.
To grow
we can grow wheat. We don't need wheat from Russia in Kenya.
You can grow wheat in northeastern.
We can grow. My dad grows sorghum and I'm eating it in my house. We grow it. Apart from the farm that is in the river, we had a rain-fed ram in the interior. We harvested millet, we harvested sorghum, we harvested a bit of maize.
Rain-fed.
Rain-fed. And millet, you only need 1 watering. Ile ya mvua ikinyesha. Because what we do in northern Kenya is we plant before it rains. Like a week to the rain, unaweka hizo vitu plant seeds kwa mbegu kwa hizo kwa ground. Mvua ikinyesha inatoka. Hakuna kitu inakusumbua. You just fence it, you go home. You just come to harvest.
So it's possible. So when you look at the things that are happening in northeastern, like you've said, when it comes to security, insecurity, the youth being recruited to join these terror organizations because they feel they have lost hope, there's nothing else that they can do, it's because of a failure somewhere in a
it's not just system. A failure, it's a design.
It's a design.
Security is the most profiting docket in Kenya. Devolution is the second most profiting for people in business. Tenderpreneurs. Now, I have written. It's my car. I'll bring copies here. I've written 3 letters to the county government of Mandera. One is to the Ministry of Education about the bursary we spoke about here. Now that we have agreed that the function was national, but you have given bursary to people, it's okay. Now that you've said there was drought, the drought is gone, we got rain. Now tell us the number of students who have benefited from this bursary. Do they exist? Remember Muga Secondary School? Tell us the number of students who have benefited, how much they got, and their admission numbers, so that I can verify. Under Article 35, under Article 3, under Article 10 of the Constitution, I pick as a Kenyan citizen, I go to a school, I ask for this student, then you find the guy is a Gumbaro, he doesn't exist. You see.
Did you get a response?
They refused to respond. I gave a statement the other day on the vernacular. It's raising a heat in Mandera. I'm now instructing my lawyer today to write a reminder. If he doesn't, I will petition Senate to investigate. Now, what you're lacking in this country is the will to change people. I remember Muga saying, we have been conditioned and given bits and bytes of development. And people have accustomed, they just accustomed to that. Now, Kenya is the 5th biggest economy in Africa. But for whom? For 1%. Every region you go to in this country, including Central, people are poor. People are suffering of jiggers. Yet Central has produced 3 presidents. It's not, you have heard what's happening to Mandago. And Masi, the lady in was it Washingishu?
Yes.
Masi Toritor, what was her name?
Chepkoech.
Yes. I mean, Mandago is a Kale. He was a 2-time governor and a sitting senator. Can he imagine if that was true? We're just going with the allegations. The horror those mothers have gone through. One Mkale is doing that to another Mkale. Then there was another con woman about the traveling agent thing in taking people for jobs.
Yeah, we know which one you speak of. Yeah.
Yes. So this is a country where deception and thievery and thuggery, corruption is better than looting and theft. Corruption means we buy this phone to the Kenyan government, we sell it to Kenyan government, the bucket price is like 10,000. And then we agree, she's the procurement director. You remember the lady when the president spoke about, she cannot be there transferred.
Yeah.
And then you tell her, haya, iko nini hapa, ingapi? 10,000. Haya, procurement unataka ngapi? Weka yangu 1,000. Wewe, CEO huko sijui, wewe leta 500 yangu. Muga Research Department sijui MNE, unataka ngapi? 500. That's 2,000. Then we buy the phone at 12,000.
We all agree.
We all agree. The market price plus the 30% profit is 10,000. That corruption is okay. Countries can survive that.
That one is okay.
That one is okay. Countries can survive. Europe is corrupt. America is corrupt. UK is corrupt. It is the DNA of human nature to steal. It's just in their inherent. It's few people who will say no because of your conscience.
That one is okay.
That one
of marking up.
You see, its effect is limited compared to stealing and looting. What's happening in Kenya? We are no longer talking about millions. We are talking about billions. What's happening with the maize subsidy now? There are billions. KEMSA, there was scandal of billions. And if Kenyans were stealing millions and hundreds, this country will be very far. They are stealing billions.
He's talking about relativity here. Relative to.
Yes.
See? It is not that corruption is good.
No,
but when you compare it to theft, outright theft, theft takes everything and you don't get any value. This one at least you have a phone.
Yes.
Yes.
And the phone is delivered.
Yes.
Now, when you hear of people stealing,
yes.
There is no money you're stealing. When you go to the budget, these are itemized budget already meant to provide services.
Yeah.
When you steal them, when you loot them, when you thievery them, you are denying people services.
Yeah.
Pesa ya dawa umeiba, watu hawapati dawa, so wanakufa. Wale wa cancer, hakuna physiotherapy, hakuna dawa. Wale wa TB umeiba, wale wa AIDS umeiba. Hiyo pesa unaiba. There is no money you steal in this country that is lying somewhere functionless. No. Every activity that is planned for in a country follows by money.
So essentially you are stealing the services.
You're stealing the services.
what ought to have gone to the people.
Yes.
Let's take a break on that note. 27 minutes to 10, Kenya's biggest conversation. This morning we are hosting Abdullahi Alas. He is a columnist, he's a governance and policy analyst. He has been here on the show before. He's here again. We're talking about insecurity in the north. And you're saying this is all engineered to be this way. Isolated, what's happening to the people. Are you prepared for the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon? You should be. And all you need to do is go to nairobimarathon.com and register and pay 2,000 shillings and get ready to start running on the 29th of October, Sunday. It will be flagged off at Uhuru Gardens. You run along the Southern Bypass. All the proceeds from this go towards the Future Makers program, helping young people, especially girls and persons with disability, to learn, earn, and grow. That's nairobimarathon.com.
I'll be running.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
You tuned into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanya.
What are your goals for future study? High academic standards, amazing learning environment, multicultural communities? Well, the Study in Japan Global Network brings you the Study in Japan Fair for Kenya 2023 for students in arts, business, international studies, languages and sciences. Come and meet with 18 Japanese universities on Friday, September 15th at the Embassy of Japan from 10 a.m. Plenty of scholarships are available. Apply before you leave or apply when you land. To join this event, log on to www.studyinjapanforafrica.com now.
On your marks, get set.
Kenya's largest single-day athletics event is back again this year, and it is bigger. Get ready for the 20th edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. Join us at the Uhuru Gardens on Sunday, 29th October, as we celebrate 20 years running. Register today for 2,000 shillings only at www.nairobimarathon.com. All proceeds go towards our Future Makers program, which helps young people, especially girls and people living with disability, to learn, earn, and grow. All right, 16 degrees, partly sunny conditions in Nairobi, but it's going to be overcast for most of today. 28 will be the high in a sunny Nakuru, and we'll see highs of 25 in a partly sunny Nyeri. The highs will go to 25 in Eldoret, and at 26 it's sunny in Mombasa, highs of 29. 29 will be the high in a sunny Malindi. It's 25 and sunny in Kisumu and 25 and sunny in Kakamega. Partly sunny conditions through Kampala, currently at 24, and at 28 it's sunny in Dar es Salaam. It's 17 and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 28, and 29 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Lagos at 24. It's 23 and sunny in Kinshasa, and looking out into Monday afternoon, Beijing is sunny at 30. It's 19 and sunny in Paris coming into Monday, and a foggy morning in London at 17. Clear conditions still Sunday night in New York coming into Monday, highs of 33 and lows of 24.
Some very nice, mature music.
They really take me back to my days, and I can just feel young again and enjoy the vibes.
Spice.
I'm a big listener of Spice FM.
You play the best music.
This is 94.4 Spice.
So most parts of the city looking much better. It's the climate summit in Nairobi, so all roads were leading towards the city. That's understandable now, because we can understand why there was heavy traffic on Uhuru Highway, then getting into the CBD. It's probably going to continue that way even as the first breaks come during the summit. So just so you know, if you're in the city, heightened levels of traffic because there's more activity in the CBD. As you're coming off of Thika Superhighway, you're much better now. Not too much of an issue. The Pangani underpass is going to be choked at least for a bit, but you'll get out of that soon enough. We're out of traffic hour now. Let's see what happens through the day. Spice FM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
See these things we're
We've
talking.
been having this conversation. First, let's adjust Abdullahi's mic.
Okay.
But
It's doing the thing.
it's doing the thing. Doing the thing.
Is that okay?
That's okay. That's
1 2
better.
1 2. Yeah.
So the things that we're talking about, even talking about a thinking leadership or thinking governance is essentially what we're saying. But we talk about it as if it's some magical space where people need to have some kind of identification. You need to maybe be dressed in a certain robe. No, it's not something so difficult to comprehend that can be done, or that this thinking you need to have been locked in a library for years. No. It's a basic thing that we're talking about. One example, the cattle that was bought off from many people around the country.
Very cheap prices.
Very cheap prices. Bulls were going for 9,000, 6,000, 8,000 shillings, right? They were not going to slaughter these bulls. Whoever was buying them, what was happening to them? They were being taken to another location and they were being fattened, and then they were sold for meat. So that thinking exists, but it's not being applied at the place where it should be applied. And is it a mentality of just folks who are in government or who should be in a position to do something about this? Or is it a mentality across board?
The problem in the country and even in northern Kenya is because if there are two things you can't do in government when you're running government. If you're looking to profiteer, to make money, it's different from when you want to provide service. So if your idea is to make money, then everything else will be blinded. So you'll be looking at project that's going to give you 500 million. That's now in construction. Roads, water, service, providing drugs. Now, these are services, yes. Roads and dams are enablers of development. They are stimulus of development. In basic terms, development means when people have the ability to buy things, when the people have the ability to have choices, which means the people of northern Kenya are not poor. They are not.
Yeah.
The people of northern Kenya, like my immediate family members, my uncles, we have camel. It's 100. I think 100, 120. But owned by within the cousins.
Yeah.
120 camels in a family of one, people are not poor. Because one camel can cost between 110 to 130. One.
One camel is 100,000.
I'm coming back to the fattening of cows. There's a guy, a friend of mine, I think he's in Garissa now. He has a farm. He buys the cows when they are weak, and then he fattens them. The other day, he took like 70 of them at 65,000 per cow. So that's 4.550 million
that he spent.
That he got.
Yeah.
He spent less than 200,000.
Okay.
But he bought
them. He was buying them.
Buy them was 7,000, 6,000, 5,000 like that. So if we say an average of, let's say an average of 10,000 for both of them, times 70, that costed him 700,000.
700,000, yeah.
Minus 4,550,000. You see, 4.4, 800 profit. The guy has bought a new cruiser and he has a canter and he's buying apartments in Nairobi.
From 4 million.
Yes, from 4 million. No, that's every 3 months. No, that's only one section
of the
investment.
How big is his feedlot?
50 acres.
It's a 50-acre feedlot.
Yes.
Where he's growing the pasture.
He's growing the pasture. He's having, agriculture on this side, fodder for them, all these things.
Yeah.
Now, what is happening in northern Kenya is the governors are looking at projects that's going to give them money. Because as long as you're investing in drugs, you are leading a sick society, which means you have not provided food. So if they don't have enough food to eat, they eat the drugs because they're sick.
It's disease, isn't it?
Yes.
It's disease.
Water is dirty, they get waterborne diseases. Malnutrition, they look for plum nuts so that the kids
can eat.
Now, I'll tell you what is happening with my own family. I have the privilege to go to school and I'm married to a nurse, a senior nurse. The food she gives us is different from the food Somalis are eating. Every time she tells you we need to have some greens, we need to have some protein, not necessarily meat, beans, and then she tells you eat more greens and more protein and less carbohydrate and drink a lot of water. How many families have that privilege?
Very few.
Not 1%. Mandera County is the poorest county in Kenya. That's very shameful.
What do you mean when you say poorest?
Poorest as in among the 47 counties. Kenya National Bureau of Standards.
Per capita income.
Per capita income. Everything. It's the poorest. Education, 26 people are illiterate. Why? They do not invest in what matters to the people so that they grow up. If the last government was doing much about agriculture only, and then value chain for livestock farmers. The county government, through the Ministry of Agriculture, can say we need to fence 100 acres in Mandera. Agricultural extensionists, employees for the county, we produce fodder for these cows. And then we create sheds. During the drought, we buy them. During the drought, we buy them. But when we buy them, we tell this guy we are going to feed this animal, and then we are taking from you at 10,000 or 5,000. When we sell it, we are going to give you back 80% of the money, and the county is going to take 20% because the county has money. When you drill, you construct a big dam. What is the return from the dam? Only people drinking it. What if you put a solar engine and then you pipe water and then it's bringing a return? Look at our budget. Our budget is funding services. Mandera County government says we are going to a projection of 350 million revenue generated from our own. I told them, where are you going to generate it from? Where?
What's the plan?
No, where? Where is the investment? You see, for you to generate income, my brother, you need to invest. Look at what the Kenya government is doing right now.
How much did they collect last year, in the last financial year?
Not more than 80, maybe 120, 80 million, 50 million, 100. They have never collected more than 200 million.
Okay, so let's say 150 million shillings. Where does this 150 come from?
Licensing.
So it's a licensing.
Animal markets, getting this, road transport of people paying. Land. This, you see, if they were smart, they would just invest in agriculture. What do you do? Now, you tell farmers, look, how many farms do you have in Mandera along the river? Let's say 3,000. Let's categorize them into five farms. Every 5 farm, we are going to buy them a water pump engine.
Surely.
But that water pump is going to be funded by the county government 50%. So the engine will cost around 120,000. The county will provide 60. Then you go to, Ministry of Agriculture or people who fund agriculture. You get another 40,000 from them. That's already 100. The farmers will provide 20 or 30 even for the services and transport. So 5 farms divided by 30,000. 6 per farm. Now, but the engine is under clear instruction. The person in charge of that engine is the agricultural extensionist officer. Yako ni kutumia service. Because you buy them, what happens? Like the engines that were bought by organizations and the government, sinaribika.
No one to service.
10 farms here. They tell them, how much is the engine? It's worth 200 or 150. Tell them, wewe tengeneza, give us 50. Currently, my village, the county government of Mandera through NGOs brought an engine that is 4.5 Boston that can pipe water for 7 kilometers.
Powerful engine.
Very powerful. Because of 10,000 imeharibika.
10,000 what?
Shillings. Imeharibika. The community is waiting for me to talk to the CEC water so that he sends money. The engine was supposed to be under the care of the Ministry of Water. So that the community will only enjoy the service. Because if you leave it to them, one, they don't have the capacity to maintain it. They don't have the knowledge to take care of it. Now, once you do that with 3,000 farms, you tell them, now we are going to provide seeds for you. But we'll sell like 2 kgs of Tosheka is 500 shillings. You buy at 500 shillings. You give them at subsidized price at 200 shillings. But this 300 imeandikwa somewhere, si ati bure. Tumeiandika.
Yeah.
Later on when we are buying,
We'll deduct.
if the prices of buying a bag of 50 kgs was 4,000, we are going to give you 3,000. Because hata sisi tulikulipia engine, cost sharing.
Right.
So the county buys all the maize, build a good store it. Then later on distribute it. My brother, there is no magic in governing. There are two components that are missing in Kenya and especially in Northeastern. The will to do something right and the people who... Everybody cannot be a thinker in a government. This country, the people who developed secession paper 1965 were how many? And how many million are we? Yes. The people who produce research at Kenya Bureau of Standard or KEMRI, they are not many.
It's one department.
It's just one department of competent researchers.
Thinkers.
Yes. Now, those people will now produce these things. The governor is not supposed to be a thinker. The governor is a policy person. He calls people, then tells them, this is our problems. This is the amount of money we have. Remember, we are third funded after Nairobi and Turkana. This budget is 13 billion.
Every year.
Hello, Eric. 13 billion Kenya shillings.
Inakuja Mandera.
Anything to show?
Roads. They have built greenhouse. They have built a lot of beautiful AC new offices, carpeted offices. But 76% of the community cannot afford 2 meals. Because they are thinking, like we have a county headquarters. It's a good thing to have a county headquarters now. But that county headquarters was supposed to be built now, not the first 10 years. Why? We are using close to $1 billion in building that thing. And it's going to host few officers who are not even there when the governor is not there. The moment the governor is in Nairobi, they don't even come.
They all go to Nairobi.
They'll either go to Nairobi or come around midday. You don't get services if you go there. So if we get people who will sit with the governor and then everyone in the cabinet, everyone in the PS, apart from very few, are people who are employed to take instructions. So the governor intimidates them. You see, if you have studied and you can do your own things in life, your work is to advise the governor on how to succeed so that the people of Mandera County can benefit from 13 billion. My work is not to massage your ego. Hiyo utapelekea bibi yako na watoto yako nyumbani. Hapa nikikuja nitakwambia governor, we need 300 million for agriculture. We need to invest in pesticide. We need to invest in training the farmers. We need to invest in greenhouse farming. We need to invest in contemporary farming. Hii mambo ya kutumia jembe ya 1960 iliisha. Let's go to either China or Singapore or those countries, India, and look at those companies. Get tractors that are using the hand. Ile iko na fuel. Na ni tractor. Buy them. Pipe them.
But better still, even organize so that you can actually assemble them.
Yes. Or even send our boys from for leavers with D+ to go there and study for 2 years.
And then they come back.
And then, open a workshop in Mandera and supply the whole of Northern Kenya. You just need strict financial prudence and control, mechanism.
But then you can't say, Governor, that all the people that Mandera has produced, because Mandera has produced people who, like yourself, are thinkers. So where is your thinking going? Where is the thinking of somebody like you? Where is the thinking of your previous governors? Come on, boss.
You see, I did not have the latitude or the privilege to be a governor because I come from minority
clan.
Yes, it's not important who you know. Is how much your big family is.
Okay.
And how much money you have. So the people who will have changed are considered to be either against the establishment or anti the government.
Okay.
Because they're used to clapping and bootlicking. Ahmed Nasser talks about it all the time.
Yeah.
He doesn't sugarcoat it.
He's from Mandera.
He's from Mandera, yes. But he does it on Twitter.
Yeah.
He's invested in helping people. Yes.
Yep.
He's like now he has built dormitories and school libraries for both Mandera Secondary School and Moi Girls. So he's doing his bit.
So people are doing
bits and bytes. There is nothing an individual can do But so much can be done by the county government because there is a budget.
It sounds like what the community needs is the community needs to identify a leader and not look at all this clan politics and all, and think about who is thinking for the people.
Like Muga said the other time here, we have a conditioned society. Muti yetu syndrome, kijana yetu. Right now, I gave a press statement and people say, what do you want from our governor? And the guy telling you that, maybe he has not taken breakfast.
But he's seeing you're fighting our governor.
You go to the market, people will start finger point, ile kijana anasumbua serikali yetu. You see? So this society is society that Kenyatta failed, Moi failed, Kibaki failed, Kenyan system failed them, because if they were empowered to sense that civic education was done so that this is your right and responsibility, this is your property. See property, right now, I'm being told, allegations are made that one of the executive committee member through a company has supplied drugs. And out of the profit, that profit from the profit, he's bought land in Karen and paid a deposit of 35 million.
Nice. Gosh.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
35 million. A man who lived in Kilmani in rental houses for the last 15 years is building 10 years into government. We are told he's buying land in Karen and building at 160 million.
And he's only a CEC member.
Yeah, county executive, because there are 12. There is the governor, deputy governor, and 10 of them. So they are all of them. Then you ask, you were living in Kilimani. I was living in Parkland. So tulikuwa rentals is water. 10 months, bwana. 160 million. Which miracles are you performing so that we talk to Jesus and print this money so that, we also make money. So people, you see, I told people here, we don't, what is the name of this Twitter guy?
Which one?
The owner. Elon Musk.
Yes. Kenya, we don't have Enoch Musk or the guy of Twitter.
He's the guy.
These guys, no, we don't have, there is nobody in this country who has invented anything.
Like Facebook guy.
Yes, the Facebook guy. Or the guys who have produced penicillin. Kenyans have invented nothing.
Safaricom.
You see, that's a company. I'm talking about an individual.
See, an individual.
Well.
Actually, he's right. Do we even know the name of that guy?
We were told.
Because it is not Safaricom who actually came up with it.
It's not.
A guy. There's a guy.
There's a guy. Who is that guy? Hatujui. What is his share in Safaricom today? Because that is intellectual property. Hatujui. Hata huyo jamaa tunaambiwa tu jina yake tunajua. Hatujaambiwa. We just run away with everything we are told. Do you know his name? Which tribe is he come from? Which region is he come? Which school did he attend? What did he study? I mean, you can't just tell us we invent. Tunaambiwa tu upuzi tu. Tell us, Eric, you are a journalist, a very long what is the name of the guy who established Safaricom? Ametoka wapi? Ni Mkikuyu ama ni Mluya ama ni Woria? Alienda shule gani? Lenana ama Mandela Secondary? Which primary did he attend to? Where is his mom and dad? We were just told. We don't question things. This country. Who? So what we are saying is that and I told you we will have this argument every day. This country does not need prayers.
It needs doing. Thinking.
Prayers. I want you to Google Matthew 21.
Bible.
Yes, tell us. And I want you also to Google Quran 4:135.
Wait, Matthew 21 verse what?
Endelea tu itakutokea utaona. Hujasoma Bible. Wewe tuende mbele itatoka tu.
Quran what?
Yes.
21:22.
Jesus anasema nini? When James came to Jerusalem.
Hebu ngoja.
Quran umesema ni?
Quran 4 verse 135.
If you believe you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer. Hiyo ni Matthew 21:22.
21 and 22. And
22. Truly I
No, not that one. The one that talks about the taxpayer and the prostitute are always righteous. And not,
Such Matthew taxpayer. Let me do the Quran.
Yes.
Quran 4:135.
Yes.
Believers, be upholders of justice and bearers of witness to truth for the sake of Allah, even though it may either be against yourselves or against your parents and kinsmen, or the rich or the poor, for Allah is more concerned with their well-being than you are. Is that the one you want me to read?
Yes.
Be upholders of justice. Speak the truth.
Even if it's against
your parents or kinsmen, or the rich or the poor.
Now, what you're saying is this. This country, we don't need prayers. Gerik, enda
We need believers.
Enda omba Mungu, kuja hapa fanya kazi yako, enda nyumbani. Mimi nikitoka hapa, I woke up at 3:30. I went to the mosque. I prayed and I stayed in the mosque until 7:15. Then I left, prepared for the show. I did not take breakfast. Maybe I'm going to get a cup of tea from here.
Yes, you will.
So you see, prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who care about the country and not their stomach.
That's what we need. Abdullahi, always a pleasure having you. It's good to hear the story of what you personally experienced and went through just a couple of days ago. And now you can see the transformation.
Yes.
We need people who are more concerned about their country and about the welfare of others, not just the welfare of their own stomachs.
Indeed.
That's a message that we get this morning. Abdullahi Alas is a columnist, a governance and policy analyst. Everybody is saying, Hu jamaa rudi tena. Rudi tena. Now that you're back in Nairobi, of course you'll be
I
back.
saw the comments.
Yes.
And I can brag that I'm the third most watched after Omtata and Amanasa.
10 a.m. Good morning. Have a lovely day.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. President William Ruto has arrived at KICC for the Africa Climate Summit. The head of state was received by Deputy